Good evening, race fans, and welcome to tonight's coverage of the penultimate round of Season 6 of the NLRL Sunday League here at Round 9, live exclusively on TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark, and welcome to our second-to-last stop of Season 6 here, as things could barrel down to crown 3 champions tonight. On the run in towards Round 9 today, you join us here over the rolling hills of Spielberg, Austria, at the home of the Austrian Grand Prix in tumultuous conditions at the Red Bull Ring. Founded in 1969 as the Österreichring, later renamed to the Steiermark Österreichring between 1986 and 1995, then the A1-Ring from 1996 to 2004. In 2004, it would be purchased by Dietrich Mateschitz and reopened in 2011, having been newly reformed to the Red Bull Ring. It's 10 turns and 2.6 miles of FIA Grade 1. Of course, home of the Austrian Grand Prix, and during 2020 and 2021's Formula 1 season, the Styrian Grand Prix. That was the same story for Grand Prix motorcycle racing. MotoGP has called the Red Bull Ring home of the Austrian Grand Prix since 1996 and the Styrian Grand Prix from 2020 to 2021. Outside of Grand Prix racing, it's 2 other major accolades on a yearly basis, DTM and the Ferrari Challenge Europe Series. It also held an endurance race before 2021, the 4 hours of Red Bull Ring. And up until 1999, just before the turn of the millennium, it raced rounds of the World Superbike Championship. Today, though, will serve as the second to last round of the season here, the penultimate round of things here at Season 6. Only a week away then from the season finale, but this round tonight could crown us 3 champions here in Season 6. We follow on board at the moment with Nick Clamming, but let's recount where we've come so far as we drop in to the last 7 minutes of free practice. Taking a look at the previous wins then, after round 8 at Bathurst, Fate Galaxy finally conquered his fears, having been brought up from last season at round 4 of Season 5, I should say, where he was sadly taken away from his first ever chances to take a race win in this series. Galaxy dominated in the number 55 BMW, taking his first win of Season 6. It was Patrick Leger to continue the streak of what is now 6 consecutive Rookies victories. We'll get on into the talks on the Rookies Championship not long from now, but first of all, having a glance at the Drivers' Championship standings overall. With Tyler Vermaak leading in towards tonight's round, there is a very likely possibility the South African talent, after 3 seasons in waiting, could be crowned champion tonight. Zolt Beefgartner in second and Cas van Velzen in third. Carlos Diesch, after troubles with his Audi in Bathurst last weekend, drops to 4th in the championship. And Patrick Leger, leading the Rookies Championship, rounds out the top 5 overall. Behind him in 6th place, Alan Alexander and Brooklyn Donkin, 6th and 7th, with Fate Galaxy in 8th place, 9th place for Ian Skeen, and rounding out the overall drivers' top 10 is that of George Todd, now having withdrawn from the championship, but still on the charts there with 84.5 points. Taking a look then in towards the championship standings for the teams and rookies. Euro Titans stand dangerously close after just the sprint race today of becoming consecutive teams champions after taking their first in Season 5. They stand tall over 5-Star Esports and TSRC on the podium. Hispania make 4th and Malwar round out the top 5. CRT in 6th and new introduction Talkline Motorsport makes 7th ahead of VEC Esports in 8th. Hokianos in 9th and Italia Racing round out the top 10. Last but not least then, the rookie standings, where Leger stands 100 points tall over Elias de Vos in second. All he needs tonight, as we'll get on into the talks of odds in a moment, is 5 points to clear that margin and be numerically impossible to catch. Nick Lamming makes 3rd with Richard Claffey in 4th. Dimitri McLeon up to 5th with Joseph Reyes in 6th. Ian McGowan in 7th. Ruben Pino, new addition to the field as of last weekend, makes 8th place ahead of Luca Tamburini in 9th. And Vladimir Tomalarex rounds out the top 10. Looking in towards every race winner so far after 70 races of the NLRL Sunday League gave Fate Galaxy his career 3rd victory after nearly a season away from that. In fact, a season to the round, to be more specific, as he won in both Round 8 Race 1 and Round 8 Race 2 last season in Season 5 and won Round 8 outright in the endurance race at Bathurst last weekend. Taking a look in towards ballast for today, we'll see notable rises there for Fate Galaxy. But it is also worth considering at this time, still standing at that near record high 30 kilo ballast, having leveled the playing field for a 5th place finish last weekend. Tyler Vermaak still has the most in class. We see notable drops there for Carlos Diesch, leveraging his issues with Audi last weekend. We also see a notable drop there, by looks of things, for Patrick Leger as well. Drops a single kilo for the run in towards tonight's round of the championship. Looking at the regs then, we're coming up into the last moments of free practice. Up and around the corner, 20 minutes of qualifying to set the stage for the sprint and feature races, 20 minutes and 40 minutes respectively, with a single mandatory pit stop in each on open strategy. And so as we continue to follow on board with Nick Lamming, taking a look at the wider timing charts to see Tyler Vermaak fastest of 4 available times, the other 3 being Lamming, Alexander and Cheeseman. We do see some new additions to the field for the run in towards round 9 of the championship. Taking a look a little further down the line here to see this is Antonio, or TR Antonio Palma in the number 23, the Spaniard joining us on the grid here with TR Virtual Racing in 5th place, as yet uncategorized. We also see a new driver here. This is Caleb Tate, the American talent in the number 90, joining us with Audi for the run in towards tonight's round of the championship. It is set to be a rather interesting wrap-up here. As you can see, only a handful of original drivers remain. And I'd say rather curiously is the case where we are without Zolt Beefgartner. Now that is a curiosity because this opens up the talks of championship odds way wider than previously stated before. Having a look at those odds, currently the points gap between the leading drivers in the overall championship, 64.5 points. There's 105 points left in the championship, 90 from finishing positions alone, and 15 additional points from fastest laps in both the sprint and feature tonight, as well as all 3 races that comprise round 10 next weekend. For Vermaak to win in round 9, he needs to hold the gap to 54 points or higher. Right now has a 10.5 point advantage on that to Beefgartner by the end of round 9, or by the end of the sprint needs to find a 15-point advantage to Beefgartner, bringing the gap up to 79.5 points to be numerically without the chance to be caught. Beefgartner to stay in the fight for round 10. First of all, he's got to find his way onto the grid today, and moreover, has to finish ahead of Vermaak at all costs. Before we get towards the end of today's session, having a look at the balance of performance, with Aston Martin seeing the best advantage in class, so it's worth keeping an eye out there for Gabriel Rivera in the number 63 Vantage, 23 kilos shed from the V8 Vantage today. Ferrari lose 20 kilos, Porsche lose 17, and Bentley lose 6. Gaining a single kilo, both Nissan and Audi. Lamborghini and Ford gain 3 kilos, Mercedes 5, McLaren 16, and BMW a staggering 20. So with a minute and a half left to go, up and around the corner will be the start of qualifying. Now we have seen some notable changes here. Declan Anderson, who has had some great performances in a varied few series we've seen here on TRTN, having made his debut not too long ago to Season 6 of the NLRL Sunday League, now transfers to Lexus. It is a curiosity, of course, to consider. We now see Ben Cheeseman second fastest. 5-star could be gunning for what looks at a 1-2 against Euro Titans, who are on quite the limited assortment here. The majority of their drivers not present for tonight's round, but Alan Alexander still adamant to see action here in wet racing. Of course, his various exploits over the course of the last 2 seasons in the wet has earned him the name the Rainmaker by us here. That owed to his iconic performance a few seasons ago at Kyalami, where he took his first ever outright win in the NLRL Sunday League, became the first ever rookie to do so in his time spent with Porsche. Now with Bentley, and in a full-time drive here, rookie no longer, Alexander has proven time and time again to be one of the most entertaining talents on the field. We'll see what gamble he chooses to play in towards tonight's round of the championship, as we are but moments away from the start of qualifying. To remind you then of those regulations, 20 minutes of qualifying coming up to set the stage for both races, so they will play off of those standings, not the standings of the sprint race into the feature, as some may believe. And so with the odds very precariously stacked here, we do find ourselves presented with a very unique opportunity for 5-Star Esports to claim both drivers' championships by the end of today. But Euro Titans stand on the precipice by at least the end of the sprint round here, so long as they can put ever so slightly more points on the table to take home the team's championship, if they have not already got that one under calculations so far. With a single driver involved, though, Alan Alexander will spearhead what could very likely be Euro Titans' second consecutive team's championship. We'll take a look back through that team's championship, of course, back through Season 3 when it was first introduced. Malwar Racing took the first ever team's championship. Velocity, with the single-man act of Melvin Milliston on his championship crusade from Season 3 to Season 4, took the team's championship all by himself. And in the last season just gone, owing as well, alongside Cas van Veltsen's Drivers' Championship title, was Euro Titans' first team's championship here in the Sunday League. In terms of the Rookies' Championships, taking a look back over the last 2 seasons since the introduction of the Rookies in Season 4, William Bajor took Season 4's Rookies' Championship and Carlos Teach took Season 5. So Patrick Leger looks likely on the sights here to be seeing himself onto that list by the end of tonight's round. 17 cars in attendance so far as we're about to head up in towards qualifying. 20 minutes here in changeable conditions, we're told. Now, it was a rather curious footnote by Race Control because they said they only tweaked the settings by a single percentile on cloud and rain possibility, and that has given us what is so far the near assurances of rain today. 20 minutes of qualifying now underway here at the Red Bull Ring as we head up in towards quali today. See already sprinting out of the pit lane. Believe spearheading that charge is the number 8, could be crowned champion tonight. Tyler Vermaak has waited 3 seasons for the chance to call himself champion, was denied the opportunity after Silverstone at Season 3, Round 10, in what became one of the most iconic title fights in Sunday League history. When he went toe-to-toe with both Van Velten and Milliston, it was a triple threat into Silverstone that night. And all those weeks and months later, now here at the end of what could very easily be his run of Season 6's championship tonight, with still a week to go before the end of the championship itself. It's all or nothing now for Tyler Vermaak. Sadly, no qualifying predictions for tonight's round, but of the data we were able to scrape up, it does look rather precarious as the changeable conditions leave erroneous times on the table, namely for that of Tyler Vermaak, where we saw his times up to 4 seconds slower than the leading time, which I believe was set by Ben Cheeseman, his teammate at 5-Star Esports, who was in a 1-3 at the end of free practice today. Heading up in towards qualifying then, we'll stay on board with Tyler Vermaak for our tour of the Red Bull Ring ahead of the last round of the championship next weekend at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. A triple header race to bring us to the end of that championship, but it looks like the Drivers' Championship could wrap up tonight in the absence of Zolt Beefgartner. Heading up through then to turn... looking at it here, this is turn... I'm saying 10. Yes, that it is. On the run down towards the first corner here, the Niki Lauda curve as we head up in towards turn 1 here at the Red Bull Ring. On board with the number 8 McLaren, possible champion to be tonight, that of Tyler Vermaak. Up through Niki Lauda curve, up through turn 1, on the run up towards Remus. So there is turn 2 here, this slight kink left coming up the hill in just a moment's time. You can see out in front of him Joseph Reyes of VEC Esports. Making our way up towards Remus here at turn 3. This is going to be a major action spot for the run-in towards both the sprint and feature race later on today in our first major braking zone after turn 1. Heading up towards Schlossgold at turn 4. We have these nice open straight sections here, and that does give quite the opportunity for slipstream style racing on the run up towards these heavy braking zones. So there is quite the contrast in the design here of the Red Bull Ring. We see Reyes moving over for Vermaak as we head in towards Schlossgold at turn 4. Out through turn 5, so double corner technically here at Schlossgold, in towards Rauch at turn 6. And down at turn 7, the Wirth curve. As we head up in past that of sector 3. Off the exit of sector 2, out through turn 8, up towards Rint corner at turn 9, then Red Bull Mobile. So this double downhill right-hander has caught many drivers out, especially in the wet, because just off of the lines there on that area painted with the colours of the Austrian flag, that is a pool of standing water in wet races. Not long ago did we see wet racing here at the Red Bull Ring. So just as dangerous as it was there, it is still going to be dangerous here tonight. 1 minute 34, 1:15. The first time from Tyler Vermaak today. Across the line from behind him, approached there the number 58. That was Joseph Reyes moving over. So the next time onto the charts is Ben Hart, one of the 5-Star Esports Academy drivers, and the number 40 BMW goes 2.2 seconds behind. Then nearest to the line went the number 22, Daniel Marquez. Following them from behind is Caleb Tate, then Ben Cheeseman. On our next wad of valid times. Then across the line a moment ago, Luca Tamburini of ITAM Racing goes to 3rd. That's now down to 4th because Nick Lamming's up to 2nd. We also saw in the mix there was Ruben Pino a moment ago. Declan Anderson on his recent transfer to Lexus now goes to 2nd. Gabriel Rivera with Aston Martin goes to what was temporarily 3rd, now 4th, with the introduction of Patrick Leger, who could himself, now clad in the colours of 5-Star Esports following his signing last week, find himself on the winner's table in the Rookies Championship. 5 minutes in towards today's session already here at the Red Bull Ring. Nearest to the line, the number 23 across the line a moment ago, and that is Antonio Pomar in the number 23 car. Goes 8th fastest ahead of Tamburini and Hart to round out that top 10. From behind them, the number 36 was across the line a moment ago. Unless I'm misreading that, and it was the number 56. Yes, it was Path Quivetti. And the number 56, of course, a few weeks ago in Imola. We saw him as part of that major incident down towards Ravata between himself and John O'Driscoll. Quite a controversial moment out of that race, on top of its red flag ending during the feature. Hopefully not to find any trouble in the way of things like that tonight. New fastest time by Vermaak, 1:33.667 for the number 8 McLaren. It does take a little bit of punch out of it here when it comes to the fact that his championship rival to be, Zolt Beefgarner, is nowhere to be found on tonight's grid, and that's the wider case for quite a fair majority of the drivers heading in towards this round. It does make you question why for that reason. 813 nearest. Here comes Tamburini back into the top 10 ahead of Pomar and Tate. So to 9th place goes Tamburini. That's a division 6th in the rookies right now, behind Janus, Lamming, Rivera, Anderson and Leger. We see their recent transfer for Rivera to 3rd overall, 2nd in division, as the Aston Martin crosses out past Declan Anderson. Now, it was a curious change of heart here for Anderson. He has proven himself quite a capable talent on the Sunday League grid in his rookie season. And the transfer from Porsche to Lexus certainly does ring a few bells here. Number 28. Now with the RCF, a car that we have seen in the past here on TRTN, is championship-capable material. Now, of course, still a little too early to call it, and certainly in the case here of his rookie season, where Anderson now toying around with options. In lieu of his first full season, driver will be up in the majors for the Drivers' Championships. And taking a look back through the previous champions of this series, of course, the Lexus RCF has had a championship under its belt. Jason Bush's iconic performance in Season 2. The 333 cleared house during that season. A brilliant rivalry he shared with the previous season's champion Christian Lebay, as well as the fellow Aston Martin of Diman Ivanov, as well as additional elements like that of Tyler Vermaak on occasion, as well as Axel Cassier. And we saw further down the line, of course, double stint from McLaren and technically BMW as well, with Melvin Milliston having swapped cars through Season 3. It was that move to BMW in the latter round of the championship that helped solidify his lead, as there was during that time the regs that allowed for a free car change. We do see for Anderson as he makes his way down to the line. It is worth noting these rookies now having been shoved down a peg by Alan Alexander. And across the line there went Anderson a moment ago. Of course, in the last season just gone, Cas van Velzen took the championship title in a very narrow clutch at Alton Park between himself and Carlos Dishu. Later took the rookies championship with BMW. Coming up then to the halfway mark of the session at the moment. 17 cars in attendance, so sadly no one's fashionably late for today's event. And there was that somewhat of an internal conflict in the server when it came to whether or not this round should have been delayed a week. There was the conversation surrounding whether it should have been delayed because of the World Cup final being tonight. I found it rather curious that of the people that voted in that, only about 60% of them were active participants to the championship, so it does make you wonder. Right now, leading the times for the rookies is Patrick Leger. Leading the times outright is Tyler Vermaak. 1:33.460 to beat was his own personal best and the session best so far, and he couldn't find even a chip over that there in the number 8 car as he makes his way through Niki Lauda curve. Coming up then towards the halfway mark of today's session, we do find ourselves presented with quite the ensemble of fresh faces in this championship. We've seen the debut drives for quite a fair assortment of drivers over Season 6, and these will be the drivers that, for the most part, comprise the top end of the championship heading in towards Season 7, which we will be getting the calendar reveal for next weekend, so do join us the same time as today for Season 6 Round 10 at the final round of the Sunday League Season 6 from the Autodromo Nazionale de Monza. We'll be joined by both champions, which could be crowned tonight, mind you, for the calendar reveal. The wheel will be back, as has been tradition for the last couple of seasons now. And we'll wonder what the wheel cooks up this time around. Across the line a moment ago, I believe was the number 927. So that's Ruben Pino, Talkline Motorsports 214 for this time. So all 17 cars have put in times now. It's worth noting for Anderson now leading the rookies charge in qualifying. On his recent transfer to Lexus, he's only a single hundredth away from Alan Alexander. We've seen for the most part really does quite flourish in wet weather conditions, so it makes you wonder here in qualifying what's been going on for the 315. Has he been boiling over a little bit here onto the halfway of qualifying, or are we about to see a broadly different Alan Alexander on the run in towards the sprint and feature? That has been the case on a few occasions in the dry. The wet races are a completely different kettle of fish for this one. We'll hope to see it on the run in towards the sprint race. Before that, of course, we do have the news segment where we do have some news to talk about from the world of Formula One and the World Rally Championship. Do catch us a little later on there on the interlude between qualifying and the sprint. 10 minutes from now. Bohumil Janus in 10th place. We are noting there that was a disconnect from one of the drivers. We are now down to, sadly, 16 cars, 8 either side of which for when we get into the formation lap later on today. That was a curiosity. Ben Cheeseman now to 6th place. So on the 3rd row as we cross into the halfway mark on qualifying today. And we are noting there, that was another driver. So now down to 15 cars. There may be trouble with the service. We do see the reconnection there, trying to figure out it was for Pomar at this time. Makes you wonder who the second driver was, as there were 2 disconnects. Now, we have had issues in the past. The last full regulation race that we had beforehand was marred by the same problems. We see back into the pit lane there, Nick Lamming, 6th, having retaken that from that of Ben Cheeseman. Joining the session here, and this is fashionably late, Leon Schumacher of Keck Sim Racing, the number 65 Mustang, with 9.5 minutes to spare, is now onto the grid. It's worth noting 45 thousandths apart from one another as Patrick Leger now goes to 2nd overall. That now marks, hang on just a moment here, after that last lap, that is 5 thousandths of a second we're talking here. That is ridiculously close. And that's even more so now when you consider the new fastest time by Tyler Vermaak, 1:33.385. The new fastest time of the session, just under 9 minutes left to go here in Season 6, Round 9. Coming up onto 8 minutes left to go in today's session. Number 58's nearest, Joseph Reyes of VEC Esports, followed by the 114 of Ben Cheeseman. Reyes stays where he is. Cheeseman, could he retake the position from Lamming? Yes, he can. Up to 6th place there goes Ben Cheeseman over Nick Lamming by 105 thousandths. The last lap just gone. From behind him was the number 90, the 777, the number looking there 56, and the number 28. You see now, new fastest time here, and this is quite the showstopper. 93 thousandths in the clear. Declan Anderson is fastest in the session. Now, we saw over on the OLRX VSR Midweek Championship not too particularly long ago was their victory for this one in the Gold Division. In fact, I believe back in what was earlier VSR Season 11. So, a bit of a distance back there, but Anderson has still been a very present sight up in the, I believe it's now the Platinum category he competes from with Porsche. He has been quite a solid one to watch over the course of the last few weeks on that series. Still just having got up past its midway mark this week just gone. So we head in towards Round 5 next week coming. Well, I suppose this week coming, so to speak. We head to Alton Park on a double header at Alton Park, mind you. In the events we've got coming up in towards next week, we'll be there for both GT4 and GT3 across Competizione Performance League's GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series and the OLRX VSR Midweek Championship. Other events, we've got the penultimate round of TSR's Sprint Cup EU Series of Season 6. We head over towards the Circuit Zolder on Tuesday evening. Otherwise, we've got events coming up in towards Sunday, of course, 6:30 p.m. BST. Same time as always, the season finale coming up into this week. 17 cars, now 18, because we do see another fashionably late entry there, Felix Schwab, and the number 5 Keck Sim Racing Ferrari. So the Keck Sim Racing team, albeit a little bit late to today's session, will wonder whether or not they come out to play in qualifying. They still have time, mind you, here, with Anderson now leading the charge. Vermaak, for the most part, then silent from the pit lane. It is curious to see what is currently the strategy of the possible champion to be tonight. Does he know that no matter what he does here in the absence of Zoltbeef Gardner or Cas van Veltzen, which remain a curiosity as to how they hadn't signed out for this round, it seems to be that the red carpet's being rolled out here for Vermaak, so to speak. I think it does take a lot of wind out of the sails for what has been his most competitive season to date so far. You take a look back through his previous wins over the course of the season. Vermaak has cleared house, winning in both race 1 and 2 of round 2 of the championship, and both the sprint and feature of round 3. He won in 4 races in a row from round 6 all the way into the sprint for round 7. And this has been, by and large, his best season of the Sunday League. This is harking back to what has been 3 seasons in the making. We mentioned that before for Tyler Vermaak. This has been a long time coming for the South African talent. It has took many different vehicles and a handful of different teams to put him in his right place here. on the run in towards Season 6, Round 9. It does seem to be the case then that everything's in its right place now on the run in towards Austria for Tyler Vermaat, but he's 93 thousandths away from Declan Anderson, so it still raises the case here. While he knows the championship is more than definitely in the bag, is he still going to be as committed to charging for pole position? Well, a lot less has motivated him, so we'll see what he gets up to here in the next 5 minutes. The run down through Rin in towards Red Bull Mobile. But this is quite a remarkable turn of pace here for Anderson. Down to the line, 133.292, his own time to beat there. Nothing changed yet. Vermaat onto a flyer, so it has to clear just under a tenth of a second to go back on a pole position, and feasibly speaking, has got about 3 more laps to do it. It's worth noting, even on this smaller grid with a lot of fresh faces, such as the case here for quite recent introduction to the series, Gabriel Rivera, and the rookies, he's Division 3rd, and we have the top 5, as it stands right now, by less than a second. We do have another driver join back in. I believe it was Bohumil Janus in the number 241. He is back onto the pit lane, so 19 cars now. Things are looking up. There have been a few queries about the connection quality. That is definitely heavy on the mind of many drivers. Connections have been an issue, and quite a rife one in Assetto Corsa Competizione for the last couple of years. It is now emblematic to competitive ACC. Is the ever-present problem surrounding the server quality, of which is massively out of the hands of race organisers. Tyler Vermaat chasing Declan Anderson down through Ralkenwerth. You can see right behind him there, that's Patrick Leger, who has his own ambitions set at a possible pole position, because that would thwart the efforts of Anderson for a rookie's pole. And I think here for Anderson, we made the call not too long ago off of the competitive stead we saw from quite a fair few drivers. While not all of them may have come true, I have pretty high hopes that if Anderson commits himself to Season 7, as I say, that's probably the worst time to catch on with him there as he spins out through Red Bull Mobile. If he commits himself to a full season, I have no doubts in my mind he can challenge for championships, because this one here, Tyler Vermaat across the line, stays where he is. So he's met his match, so to speak, at least for the next 3 minutes, in the form of Declan Anderson, this ambitious drive to Lexus. Now, plenty of drivers have attempted the Lexus lifestyle here on the NLRL Sunday League. I think one of the more successful bouts of it had been Zolt Beefgarner. He has been ruthlessly loyal to Lexus for the longest time. In fact, I faint to think of any other time he's not been driving for Lexus during his time here in the Sunday League. And of course, we did see Lexus take wins last season at the hands of Michael Harris in the round at Donington. A brilliant fight they shared at the head of the field. Watching still then with Tyler Vermaat, as we still have 2 times unaccounted for, and Schumacher and Schwab, but I think we're about to actually see the pair of them down to the line here. Schwab, then Schumacher. No time set for Schwab, and no time set for Schumacher. So those were outlaps, if I'm not mistaken. We'll go and catch on board with Tyler Vermaat, because this could be a rather interesting turn of fate for him at this time. Heading up and around the Worth curve, you can see that McLaren's just skidding around on what it almost feels like a sheet of ice for these drivers here. These changeable conditions make it very difficult to strategize for. So we see up in front, the 58 brought the yellow flags out and swiftly brought himself back into the pit lane. That was Joseph Reyes in a spot of bother between turns 9 and 10. This will be a key area to watch over the course of the race, both sprint and feature alike, as this will be a very easy area for drivers to get caught out. Down towards the line he goes, and by looks of it there, it was a 133.425, so no improvement yet from Tyler Vermaat. He was in fact 2 temps out, and I believe as the conditions look like they're worsening, this could have sealed the deal for a possible stint at pole positions here for Declan Anderson. And this could be a very interesting turn into what could very well crown 3 champions today. Bear in mind, this is one of 2 races coming up around the corner. The sprint race, the shorter of the 2, 20 minutes, then the feature race, the 40-minute stint here at the Red Bull Ring. Next weekend, we'll see the triple sprint events, and that will have 3 of these 20-minute races packed end on end. For a minute left to go, so as it stands for Tyler Vermaat, this is beyond the point of no return. This lap has to be everything for him. Otherwise, he plays second fiddle to Declan Anderson on the starting grid, and we still don't yet know what the conditions precisely look like for either the sprint or feature. Now, we were told on the run-in towards today, mixed or variable conditions, and as we mentioned, they only tweaked them by a few percentages over last round at Bathurst. You see there out wide goes Leger. I think that seals the lid on what is likelier than not to be a division second, otherwise P4. And there is still the small, don't get me wrong, infinitesimally small odds of a dry race, but there is still the chance. It is a non-zero, I would say, on the run in towards today's race. Down through to turn 10 we go. Tyler Vermack, I'm not so sure. You can see him sliding there. So that has very likely sealed the deal. But you can see here, only a few more seconds to the line. He won't take the chances of one more flyer. Across the line, just beating the bell there. Leger has one more shot. But in conditions that look to be getting worse and worse, can anyone yet stand in the way of Declan Anderson? Across the line a moment ago went the number 87. That was Nick Lamming finishing off the session in 7th, tucked in between Cheeseman and Schwab. The rockets up to the top 10 ahead of Tamburini and Tate. Tamburini and Tate, I'd like to point out, are only separate from the 5th row here by 100th of a second, 10 milliseconds as it stands. Very, very close margins. 315 nearest. Here comes Alexander, the rainmaker of the Sunday League grid, reluctantly stuck in 3rd. But this has been a real turn of the heel for Declan Anderson, leaving behind his previous manufacturers for ambitions set at Lexus. We see here Felix Schramm to the line from 8th, goes to 7th ahead of Nick Lamming. Will start on the head of that 4th row. 114 nearest to the line. Right up in front of him there was the number 777, Pedro Lopo of Talkline Motorsports. Lopo in 14th and Cheeseman in 6th. The last time then down towards the line here is going to be that of Patrick Leger. This is going to be a rather interesting one here for Leger. Of course, he stands very, very likely on the chances to see a championship tonight in the rookies division. Needs to put only 5 points on his nearest rival. I believe it was Elias De Vos. And in the absence of De Vos, this is a clear shot. The end of the sprint race will yield us 3 champions on the spot. Across the line there, Leger stays 4th. We are looking here quite literally at a race of champions coming up in towards the sprint race here at the end of qualifying for Season 6, Round 9. Declan Anderson, on his first drive of the season for Lexus, shifts to pole in a miraculous turnaround in qualifying. A brilliant, brilliant drive, though, nonetheless, from the number 28. He'll start at the head of the field for the first time with Lexus. So away from qualifying, looking back in towards those regulations, we come up in towards 20 minutes of racing here in the sprint race. That, as it stands to be the case, will crown 3 champions on the grounds they all finish. Euro Titans will take the team's championship so long as points can be added to the table by that of Alan Alexander. And in the Rookies and Drivers' Championship outright, it will be Leger and Vermack on the ground. They can finish this race in the absence of their rivals in the championship standings. That leaves us with a complete brawl at the 40-minute feature race and the subsequent triple header heading up into Season 6, Round 10. The grid lining up then, 3 minutes left to go. But before we have a look at the grid, let's have a look at the recent news. Now, spoilers ahead for those who have yet to have watched either Formula 1 or the World Rally Championship this weekend over the course of the Belgian Grand Prix and the 2026 Delphi Rally Estonia as we come up in towards the news segment today. Without further ado then, in F1 news, Andrea Kimi Antonelli wins the Belgian Grand Prix from pole position. It has been such a solid season then for the young Italian talent. Leads the championship over what is now a new second place spot for Lewis Hamilton. The 7-time Formula 1 champion is only 45 points away from the star driver at Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli leading that charge, 204 points strong after Belgium. And for recent woes of his teammate, George Russell, who DNF'd from this year's Belgian Grand Prix, he drops down to 3rd, now 5 points behind his former teammate at Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc makes 4th, and Lando Norris rounds out that top 5 in the championship standings. Looking towards the World Rally Championship, for the first time ever, Sami Pyri takes his first World Rally Championship win with Toyota at this year's Rally Estonia. A brilliant, brilliant performance. Finished ahead of teammate Oliver Solberg and Hyundai's Adrian Formeau. In the championship standings for the 2026 World Rally Championship, with only 5 more rallies left to go, Elfyn Evans continues to lead over Takamoto Katsuta, but his recent successes sees Pyri up to 3rd ahead of all-time joint record holding, I should say, holding World Rally champion Sebastian Ogier. Oliver Solberg rounds out the top 5 to clear house with Toyota, a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 by the Japanese manufacturer as they continue to dominate the fleeting days of the current Rally 1 era. Looking in towards the grid then with just under a minute and a half left to go before the start of the sprint race here at Season 6, Round 9 of the NLRL Sunday League powered by TRTN. It's Declan Anderson on pole position with Tyler Vermaak, possible champion to be tonight, in second place. Alan Alexander makes third with Patrick Leger, possible champion to be in the rookies tonight, starting from fourth and a division second. Rounding out the top threes in the rookies and rounding out the top 5 overall is Gabriel Rivera, a new driver for the series, and the number 63 Aston Martin V8 Vantage. He starts up at ahead of Ben Cheeseman on the third row. Behind them, Felix Schwab in 7th, Nick Lamming in 8th, Luca Tamburini in 9th, and Caleb Tate rounds out the top 10 on his inaugural drive here at the Sunday League. Antonio Pomar starts in 11th in the TR Racing number 23 BMW. He starts up at ahead of 5 stars Ben Hart in 12th, and Bohumil Janus in 13th place. Pedro Lopo of Torkline Motorsport starts 14th ahead of Leon Schumacher in 15th. Ruben Pino in 16th place ahead of Daniel Marquez in 17th. Path to Abedi in 18th. And Joseph Reyes rounds out this 19-car grid. Right as we head up in towards the 30-second warning, going to catch on board then with Declan Anderson for his first trip in pole position form with Lexus. And he'll start on pole for both races here, both sprint and feature. And we could be looking at the addition to the list of a 21st new race winner. Of course, we got up to the magical number 20 earlier this season. And taking a look at the all-time number of race winners has seen over the course of this season, in his most competitive season so far, Tyler Vermaak edge ever closer to that all-time total record of race wins, still held by 2-time consecutive champion Melvin Milliston. The Super Swede then with 18 race wins. Vermaak heading in towards tonight's round with 12. Carlos Deesch with 8 wins, I should say. A joint position there between Wesley Kuiper, Jason Bush and Cas van Velten with 5 wins. Fake Galaxy increases his counter up to 3. Alan Alexander with 2. And then we see single race wins so far for Leger, Vermeulen, Proger, Harris, Warner, Cassier, Rojnov, Skeen, Ivanov, Van Manen, Putuk and Baptiste. Heading on in towards this formation lap then, discussing key overtaking spots, as we do note trouble for Ben Hart at turn 1. There is, for a very rare instance here, a yellow flag during the formation lap. The number 40 is stranded down at Nicky Lauda curve. Just a moment here whilst we go to locate him. That's Ben Hart stuck at Nicky Lauda curve. Something appears desperately wrong with the number 40. Now, this is a rare one. He starts now from the pit lane as we resolve this and are back onto standard procedure here on the formation lap. Back on board with Declan Anderson, discussing overtaking opportunities. Turn 3 at Remus will be the core of it today. Now, you could see a few enthusiastic dives on the run up through turn 1 at Nicky Lauda curve, but it will really be focused on that first major braking zone on that uphill, almost acute right-hander hairpin at Remus at turn 3. Then in towards turn 4 and 5 here at Schlossgold is where we'll see a lot of that followed up on this almost hammer-shaped top end of the track here at the Red Bull Ring. Heading down towards Rauch, this is a great area for some follow-through action. Now, it is really a case where, as with many areas of many tracks we've reported overtaking spots on so far, you really have to be right on top of your opponent to call this one an overtaking opportunity. Your core of it is going to be focused down at that run between turns 3 and 4 at Remus and Schlossgold, up on the very top end of the track. Very vertical track here at the Red Bull Ring. What often overlooked in the conversation for tracks with quite a lot of verticality to them, because it's quite subtle compared to stuff like, for example, the Circuit des Spa-Francorchamps that kicked off this season. Heading down towards turn 9 and 10. Now, a good exit from turn 10 can certainly open doors for a run up towards turn 1, but by itself, Nicky Lauda curve will be an area where the drivers have to filter back in single file more often than not, as trying to go side by side is a huge gamble that this late in the championship not many drivers will be so eager to take. Certainly not for the case of Leger and Vermaak, the 2 possible drivers' championships to be. At the end of this round, you can see them lining up front to back from each other, their first and second row. Joining them, the number 28 of Declan Anderson on pole position for the first time with Lexus. Then behind them, Alan Alexander. So down towards the line. It's 18 cars on track and 1 for the pit lane. So 9 either side of which on the run down towards the line here at the home of the Austrian Grand Prix for Season 6, Round 9 sprint race here in the NLRL Sunday League, powered by TRTN. With Ben Hart from the pit lane, 18 cars on track down to the line, 20 minutes against the clock here at the Red Bull Ring. And we are green and racing here in Austria. A very suspenseful pause there to get us into the race start, and a brilliant start there from Tyler Vermaak, immediately putting pressure and getting up ahead of Declan Anderson. He falls onto the brakes a little earlier here to tuck in behind Vermaak on the run up through the Niki Lauda curve, out through turn one. It's a little tough to make it out here, but we can see there's already been a few bits of trouble out behind. Actually trying to get a look on board here with Luca Tamburini. You can see which car that was. Felix Schwab in the Ferrari. Side by side then at the head of the field, running up towards Rima's corner. Immediate counter-attack here is plotted out by Declan Anderson. Side by side with Tyler Vermaak. They bump a little bit there on the rear bumper of the number 8. Up through turn 3. Great start by Vermaak, all things considered. Anderson still holding on strong in the lead of the rookies division. Right behind them is Alan Alexander. So a very clean start, all things considered, up through turns 1, 2, and 3. That's rarely sighted here at the Red Bull Ring. You can see there Rivera side by side with Cheeseman in the background. That's going way out wide. Went Luca Tamburini off into the gravel. Trouble at Schlossgold for the Argentine talent. The 813 falls in behind Schwab, and by look of it there, Janus as well. Alongside him now, Pedro Lopo of Talkline Motorsport, side by side between the two Porsches on the run up towards Rauch. And falling in behind goes Tamburini. A bit of trouble then, right off the start for him. As we see up at the head of the field, Anderson v Vermaak. You can see just how skittish that McLaren is in that middle sector, heading up into sector 3 now of the exit of turn 8. As Anderson sets up his chances to continue that fight for a possible win here in the sprint. Now, of course, he will start once again on pole for that feature race, so a lot of this will be teething for these drivers. You can see very, very cautious run down through turn 9 and 10 there at Rin and Red Bull Mobile. As Vermaak takes up nearly a full second's worth of gap right off the start then, 1:38.610 as the first lap of this race by Tyler Vermaak. You see Ben Hart still in the pit lane, so as of yet unconfirmed what's going on for that number 40 out through turn 1 at Niki Lauda curve. Let's go to catch on board with that Mustang right behind here. We are curious to see from Patrick Leger's point of view. He's just shy of the podium. He's got clear line of sight, well barely I should say, with the spray kicked up from that Bentley on Declan Anderson up ahead of that of Alan Alexander, up through towards Remus. You've got to be careful hooking all the way to the inside there. There is a little bit of a bump, but almost catches drivers out. We have seen many spins down in that area of the track. We see out wide here off of Remus is Nick Lamming, fighting at the moment with Ben Cheeseman and Felix Schwab. Yellow flags are out. Towards the back it was, I believe, yes, Leon Schumacher in a spot above. And the number 65 rejoins us now off the exit of Remus. Up in front, we see a battle here. Reyes v, by looks of it here, path to Eddie. Up towards Schlossgold. Eddie going for the inside. Nearly bumps in there with Reyes. That was very, very close between the two. Reyes holds his ground, hammer down towards Rauch, and holds his ground there for 15th. Looking back up through the order to see here, out wide went the Ferrari of Pedro Lopo. That invited in almost immediately in advance there. By looks of it, yes, of Caleb Tate. It wasn't Pedro Lopo, sorry. It was, looking at with the Ferraris, that I believe was Ruben Pino, yes. So for Lamming, still inside of that top 10, we see here with Leger. Right now, it looks to be a case where Anderson is far closer to losing third than he is to gaining the lead off of Tyler Vermaak. Albeit a very, very solid start there from the number 8 now at the head of the field. It's the number 28 with a lot of pressure now from behind the 315 trying to get up past him. We're watching here from the number 9. Possible rookies champion to be tonight here, Patrick Leger, after this race. As we head up in towards that feature, I think with the gloves dropped, we could be seeing a broadly different run of the Sunday League grid. We know that Leon Schumacher is now into the pit lane very early on at the start of the sprint race. 4 minutes in. Time is money for these drivers. You see there, Schumacher is in. Meanwhile, glancing in here, I believe this is, I want to say he's one of the Porsche cars. I want to say that is, yes, that is Lopo fighting with Reyes. You see quite dinged up there as that 777 Talkline Porsche. Behind him, path to Eddie. You see here from Luca Tamburini sets his sights on Nick Lamming. He's in the top 10 as well. Behind them is Ben Cheeseman. Having a glance then at the order so far, we're nearly 5 minutes in on this race. Tyler Vermaak leads over Declan Anderson in second, Alan Alexander in third, and Patrick Leger in fourth. Gabriel Rivera rounds out the top 5 with Felix Schwab in sixth, Bohumil Janus in 7th, and Nick Lamming in 8th. Luca Tamburini in 9th. Ben Cheeseman rounds out the top 10. Caleb Tate in 11th. Ruben Pino in 12th. Daniel Marquez in 13th. Joseph Reyes in 14th. Pedro Lopo in 15th. Path to Eddie in 16th. Leon Schumacher in the pit lane. And so far, nothing to report from Ben Hart. And the same story, I should say, as well of Schumacher. He has been in the pit lane for quite some time now. We do possibly find ourselves presented with only 16 cars on the grid for today. Now, last week was somewhat of a disaster at the Mount Panorama circuit. It was a bloodbath in Bathurst last weekend. Hopefully not to see history repeat itself here at the Red Bull Ring. Luca Tamburini now having fallen behind Ben Cheeseman, scrapes the back of the top 10, possibly to be intercepted by new driver Caleb Tate in the number 90. The Audi closing in fast behind him, Ruben Pino. Up front, Leger puts his sights on Alexander, who in turn tries to vie up a chance on Anderson, who is in turn doing the same to Tyler Vermaak. So now that he's got the ball rolling, so to speak, Anderson is back on the climb. He's closing in on Tyler Vermaak, who is still skating around here in that McLaren. If we know much about his performances in the wet, we know that he is plenty more cautious than he is in the dry. Of course, it's customary, but it can be to his own detriment, especially when he's going toe-to-toe with drivers like Alan Alexander and Declan Anderson, who we have seen been a lot more confident in the wet in spite of their choices. In Alexander and Anderson's case, they have both competed in wet conditions with Porsche to a mixture of results. The case of Anderson, of course, was that iconic first ever outright rookies win, an accolade that would be later copied into the next seasons following for multiple rookies in his wake. For Leger, 6 consecutive rookies wins. He's looking for lucky number 7 to tie up that championship, so he is eager to get out past Alan Alexander and catch up to Declan Anderson, as this could be, albeit the straw that breaks the camel's back on what has been so far one of the most dominant rookies performances we've ever seen, albeit it won't change much in his prospects of taking home the championship tonight. He knows that things can be a little bit more smooth sailing, and hang on just a moment, yellow flags are out, as we see there, the number 5 and the number 114 in trouble. 114's into the pit lane, that's Ben Cheeseman, but Felix Schwab there just darts back onto the track, nearly collecting path to Eddie, as we're back up in the green flags. He's spun at turn 10, in at the pit wall, and then very nearly collects traffic along the way. We see a dive from Leger that gets thwarted by a switchback from Alexander. Up front, this is where the action's happening, as we see swiftly catching up was that of Declan Anderson against Tyler Vermaak. We see here Caleb Tate versus Luca Tamburini, Nick Lamming versus Bohemil Janus. Tyler Vermaak, possible champion tonight. I think it would, regardless of this finishing result in the sprint, he has got this one. Same story for Leger, but he would like to finish this championship run in style, I imagine, with a race win to go alongside it. But Declan Anderson has got ambitions of his own here, looking to become the 21st race winner of the NLRL Sunday League. We got up to magic number 20 earlier this season. He's looking to add himself to that growing list. We've seen wins over the course of this season from drivers like Jared Vermeulen and Patrick Leger, among others, over the course of season 6. Vermaak still defending that lead. Hasn't had to step off the line just yet, but I fear that time will soon be upon him on the run up towards turn 1. Meanwhile, information there from the pit lane that Schumacher, I believe, is now having left the pit lane, if I'm not mistaken. That is a curious one. Schumacher is now back out on track as we head towards the midway on this race. Let's go to catch on board if we can here, with the attacking angle of 2. On board with Declan Anderson, going from the outside at Remus, looking for a switchback, and this could put him at arm's length to the race lead. The number 28 now side by side, and it's worth noting, of several cars to have competed in the NLRL Sunday League, the Lexus RCF ranks among its fastest, especially in the comparison over McLaren. He's got 2 extra miles an hour geared up for, and that will be even more so the case when we head to Monza next week. All of that shove allows Anderson to loiter right over the rear quarters here of Tyler Vermaak. He's right on top of that number 8 as they charge down through Rauch in towards Worth at turn 7. 0.2 of a second between these two as they barrel down through turn 7, an area of the track already a little bit sketchy for that McLaren. We saw it through qualifying as well for Vermaak. He is having to be very delicate with that McLaren. Already a car that requires quite a heap of precision compared to the other mid-engine cars to get the most out of. We see, diving to the pit lane, so this is curious, Anderson vying up the strategic angle. He had it on pace. He was right on top of that number 8. And in his mind, I imagine, that's good enough ground to try and play things the thinking man's way. Joining him in the pit lane, trying to get the jump on him as well, is Patrick Leger. That's Schumacher. Leon Schumacher now back into the pit lane. We saw that in the background. Get a look at this on the replays here. What on earth happened? We saw from the wide angle, that was Leon Schumacher in the background, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you can see him there in that top right. Out from turn 10, facing the pit wall. We saw that earlier for his teammate at Keck Sim Racing, Felix Schwab. That's disaster for him.
We are halfway through. Keep pushing.
So still on board here with Declan Anderson. Now having emerged from the pit lane in 8th place. He's got ground over Leger, over Rivera. So he has got by definitely the chances of a rookie's win in the bag. But the real question remains, what is it looking like for an overall race win? With Tyler Vermack still out on track here. He makes his way down through Worth Corner. Behind him is that of Alan Alexander. Still close by, I should point out, as Anderson now takes the fastest lap of this race. We are seeing then still wet conditions, and the conditions will remain as they are for the next 10 minutes, so nothing to change here over the sprint. Vermack stays out. What's the call for Alexander? Same story as for Bohumil Janus in the number 241. Behind him, right behind him, I should point out there, is ITAM Racing's 813. That's Luca Tamburini with Porsche. And we've seen that Porsche can be somewhat of a dark horse in the wet races, and both the BMW and the Porsche look to stay out. Daniel Marquez, what's his call here? He'll stay out as well. Joseph Reyes, same story. Felix Schwab, the number 5, of course, we saw it was trouble for him down at turn 10 not too long ago. But all of those drivers stay out here. Meanwhile, it is a retirement by the looks of it from today's race for Leon Schumacher, but he's going to wait in the pit lane like Ben Hart for the run-in towards the feature to try this one all over again. That's the good part about the new regulations. Hang on a moment. Who's that there? That's Janus. That is Bohumil Janus, the 241. In a wall off of Niki Lauda curb. You can barely see it off in the distance there. The camera's not the most persuasive, but that does forfeit him that provisional lead of things to Luca Tamburini, and that could compromise his performance here in the sprint. That is big, big trouble for him there. He's having spun out of turn 1. And hang on just a tick here. That's the same problem for another. That is both Nick Lamming and Ben Cheeseman. Lamming lets Cheeseman back on past, I believe. He is holding off there. You can see getting up past him was Caleb Tate. There's Ben Cheeseman now, having fallen in behind Ruben Pino. You can see Lamming is allowing Cheeseman back on through. So solid sportsmanship there from Lamming. Clearly they were involved in some kind of incident down at turn 1 we didn't catch at the time. That is solid sportsmanship there from Lamming. We have seen him before. I believe it was on the Race Club UK Shooting Stars Cup where he competed for Race Club UK in that 4-way Interleague Championship. It was a great, great watch from us here on TRTN. Brilliant thing to have been a part of those few months ago. Current word then, Vermack stays out. Alexander stays out. Tamburini stays out. Marquez is in. So too is Reyes. Schwab stays out. And Janus is in. Anderson about to see the payday here. Multiple positions up for grabs as he gets out past the line. Anderson up from 8th, goes in a 5th. Creeping ever closer to Tyler Vermack. Now, we've seen some very close pit strategies in the past. I'd like to point that one out, lest we forget Barcelona earlier this season where we saw that proper split-edge performance across both races between Leger and Vermack. We see a bit of a step out there. That was Alexander, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was. Anderson moves up now to what is provisional second in the rookies. The only other driver in his way now, Luca Tamburini. We are dropping in ever closer to the last 5 minutes of racing. 6 minutes coming up on then. So what's the call for Tyler Vermack? How long is he willing to wait before taking this pit lane run? He knows he has to do it. And the 40-minute race coming up around the corner will be definitely quite a more strategic angle to consider from these drivers. It is almost a joker lap here in these sprint races. We've said it several times this season. Vermack stays out. I think he's going to try and play this one to the last. And that's a big, big risk when you consider these laps are about 1.5 minutes apiece in these conditions. Easier to calculate when you've got a nice round 2-minute bracket when you've got 6 minutes left to go. So he is going to be playing this one a little bit odd one out. But we'll see exactly what he comes through with in the next couple of laps because he knows he has to come in. Felix Schwab, number 5, Keck Sim Racing Ferrari, stays out. We saw there was the idea floated of coming into the pits. He did slow down ever so slightly through Rin. More so than would have been previously anticipated. We do note that miraculously back out on track is Leon Schumacher. So hats off to him there. He gets knocked down, but he gets right back up. That takes guts. Lamming, closest fight so far on track with Pedro Lopo. Overall 10th place fighting at this time. Meanwhile, no updates from the pit lane right now. Nothing new to report. 5 minutes left to go here on the sprint race. We know what's coming up. We know what we're about to see. And this is a very unique position we find ourselves in to where all 3 championships get wrapped up with what is, technically speaking, 4 races still to go. The triple race next week and the feature coming up just around the corner from this one. So it's going to be a lot of joy and jubilation in albeit rather dreary conditions here at the Red Bull Ring. We continue to see Lammings fight with Lopo on the run uphill through turn 2 and towards Remus. Now, news from the number 8 staying out. 315 stays out. Luca Tamburini would be next under the scalpel here for inspection, and we'll see, does the 813 choose to come in? 4 minutes left to go. He is a considerable distance behind the leading duo. Them two separated by 2.5 seconds. Tamburini by over 20. On the run down through, you can see there, the 813 hooks for the inside. The ITAM Racing Porsche now in, so in goes Luca Tamburini. Felix Schwab, Keck Sim Racing number 5, stays out. Of course, we did see Schwab and Schumacher so many seasons ago. I want to say it was season 3 we last saw them in a greater variety, so it's good to have them back on the grid in the closing rounds of season 6, hopefully to see more of them in towards season 7. Lamming still in pursuit. Anderson now up to an outright 4th place, now leading the rookies. So Anderson is looking, if not at the overall race win, if he's played his cards right under strategy today, he could at the very least be looking for his first division win in the Rookies Championship. Of course, taking a look just briefly back through those last couple of wins over the course of this season, we see wins from Patrick Leger, Elias de Vos, Richard Claffey, Vinicius Goyce, Ian McGowan, Gabriel Lavuga, and Jared Vermeulen. So this would be a new name onto the list, at least in the rookies, but you can see it in how Anderson's commanded himself through this second half of the race. He has aspirations set very, very high here. And his main target is this one here, Tyler Vermaak. Down through turn 9. Could this finally be the call into the pit lane? No, Vermaak is going to give this one all the way to the last lap. I think that under his calculations, he's got one more lap here, then we know he'll be into the pit lane. Now, this is a curiosity indeed. When you consider only about 3 corners away from him is Declan Anderson, this is going to go down to the wire. Alan Alexander is now into the pit lane. In goes the Bentley. One of the star drivers then of the Euro Titans lineup. We've seen plenty of Euro Titans over the course of this season. They are on track tonight to become a 2-time Teams champion. With Euro Titans having claimed on Season 5's Teams Championship, they are about to go 2 on the trot here. And the first ever team to do so. Vermaak stays out. Schwab stays out. Alexander is out now of his pit box. But Anderson intercepts. Now up and ahead. When you consider that margin has to be a little bit better by about 2.5 seconds, that does raise many a question. Will those 2.5 seconds be enough to assure Vermaak of the race lead? It's just him and Schwab now, the only 2 drivers left to see that pit lane. And they will be seeing it on this lap, otherwise it will be penalties. Out wide there, I believe just letting him past was that a path with Eddie. Behind Vermaak, you can see that of Ben Cheeseman in 14th place. Actually used that as an opportunity to get up and around with Eddie, who was previously in that 14th place spot. So this will be the one we see him in on. There is no other alternative for Tyler Vermaak. We can see him already anchoring the car over towards the center of the road, now to the right, as he hooks in towards the pit lane. This is going to be the single most important pit lane run for Declan Anderson in his time here in the Sunday League, because if Tyler Vermaak bottles this one, that is Anderson's first win in the bag. Across the line there, go into the pit lane for Tyler Vermaak. Very quick run in, and I believe he got that one pitched down to a fine art. Schwab, you can see there, right behind him is Declan Anderson. This is tense as we see rolling down towards his pit box. We've had far too many tense moments in the past when it comes to these pit lane runs. We saw it plenty of times in Barcelona for the fight of the race lead. We could be seeing it here in the sprint. In towards his pit box goes Tyler Vermaak. He's got a very short run out of the pits as heading down past Red Bull Mobile. Vermaak's not off his jacks yet. Now he is on the run out towards the exit of the pits here. It's going to be super close between Anderson and Vermaak. You can see Vermaak just behind the scoreboard there, gets off of the limiter, in through the Nicky Lauda curve. Right up behind him, though, is Declan Anderson. Out through the Nicky Lauda curve, it's Vermaak that holds it by a hair's width. He still has one more lap, though. This being it, the final lap of the sprint race, and only 1.2 seconds away is Declan Anderson. Let's go to catch on board, though, with Tyler Vermaak quickly glancing in here. Lamming v. Pino, not Lopo. The other of the Talkline Racing or Talkline Motorsports drivers here. We see the number 927 still holding off 9th place. But let's go to catch on board because it all comes down to this one here. Looking to find the number 8 McLaren. Still holding off in through Schlossgold, that of Declan Anderson. It could go down to the wire still. They're within the danger zone here. 1 second around it. Here with Tyler Vermaak. 12 career wins so far. Seldom a championship to go alongside it, but that could all change here. What otherwise many would consider as unlucky win number 13 around the corner. We wait to see it here at the Red Bull Ring on board with Tyler Vermaak. It's been 3 seasons since we've last been able to say this, and where we were wrong the first time, we're not going to be wrong the second time. Out through turn 9, heading up towards turn 10 at the end of the sprint race here. The checkered flag is awaiting the arrival of the number 8. Down towards the line then goes Tyler Vermaak over Declan Anderson. Anderson sees the rookies win. Vermaak wins in the sprint of the Red Bull Ring, and that is more than enough to seal the deal. After 3 seasons lying in wait, Tyler Vermaak is your Season 6 NLRL Sunday League champion. It has been a long time coming for him here. The number 8 couldn't have waited any longer. His most dominant season yields, finally, the championship he's been searching for. Try making the argument to me again that you're not interested in championships, and then we'll have a conversation. Very well done to Tyler Vermaak. Very famously quoted as saying to us that he wasn't interested in championships. He didn't want to be considered as part of the championship talks last season. Think again then, because it really takes a lot to shake us off the scent when he drives like that. What a performance by Tyler Vermaak. Right behind him then to see that rookies division win for the first time ever. Declan Anderson joins the winner's ring on the rookies on his first ever drive with Lexus. What a performance then. Alan Alexander sees the podium. Patrick Leger, and as it stands there across the line a moment ago, was Leger. So away from the conversations surrounding Tyler Vermaak, it is still joy and jubilation at the 5-star esports team, because as we spoke for Vermaak being numerically impossible to catch, so too is the story of Patrick Leger. We crowned our overall drivers championship, but now there's room for the rookies, and it's Leger who's your 2026 NLRL Sunday League Season 6 Rookies Champion. Joins the winner's ring alongside that of William Bajor and Carlos Disch in our 3rd season of the Rookies Championship. What a performance it's been from the Dutchman. Brilliant, brilliant stuff here at the sprint. Now, bear in mind, we still have one more race to play. We're 2 champions deep, and there's still room for one more, because unfortunately, while we don't have a graphic at the bottom, we can tell you now, Euro Titans has taken the crown. They are your Season 6 Teams Champions. 2 times on the trot, undefeated. That takes quite a lot to come up out of a legacy left behind by Malwar Racing and Velocity Racing over what have been 2 incredibly dominant seasons back in Season 3 and Season 4. To go 2 on the trot, it was a full force ensemble at the start of this season and all throughout last, but seeing them down to their 2nd championship, carrying the torch tonight by his lonesome, was that of Alan Alexander. The Battle Cruiser Bentley is the one that spearheads that final push over the edge for Euro Titans. They are your Season 6 champions in the Teams Championship. Now, coming away from the sprint and up in towards the feature. This is the real deal now. Gloves are off. 17 cars in attendance for tonight's round of the sprint race. Oh, not sprint race, sorry, feature race. Still reeling from what has been such a vivid performance today in such a short amount of time. We now, having a glance at that regulation sheet one more time, have 40 minutes of racing up and against us here. The feature race with a single mandatory pit stop like we saw in the sprint on open strategy. Minimum 3.2 second stop in the pit lane for fuel. And so we find ourselves back on this grid, minus a driver there, as we are now down to 17, actually minus 2 drivers, I should say, as we're down to 17 cars of what started originally as 19. But one thing remains the same. Declan Anderson returns to pole position. Tyler Vermaak, now your Season 6 champion in the drivers division, starts in 2nd place. 3rd for Alan Alexander, who spearheaded that final push to put Euro Titans in the Teams Championship title. And Patrick Leger, your Season 6 Rookies champion, in 4th place. Behind them then, Gabriel Rivera with Aston Martin, Ben Cheeseman in 6th, Felix Schwab in 7th, Nick Lamming in 8th, Luca Tamburini in 9th, and Caleb Tate rounds out the top 10. Pedro Lopo in 11th, Leon Schumacher in 12th, Ruben Pino in 13th, Daniel Marquez in 14th, Path to Avedi in 15th, Joseph Reyes in 16th, and Bohemil Janus in 17th. So a slightly smaller grid than would have been expected, but the gloves are now off. There is nothing left riding on the line championship-wise that hasn't already been claimed by the drivers and teams present to Season 6 Round 9. So we are about to see quite the rumble at the Red Bull Ring. We're a minute and a half out from the start of the feature race. Double the length, double the trouble. Single pit stop as mentioned from before. And the drivers get to run it back all over again. And unfortunately, fate does not shine upon the fortunate today, as we do find ourselves in another wet race at the Red Bull Ring. There was the very small kindling of the possibility of a dry race today. The drivers will just have to wait this out to the final round of the championship coming up next week at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza before they get to see the opportunity for dry racing at that triple header to close out what has been a fantastic season so far of the NLRL Sunday League. We're not quite yet done, though, as we are but moments away from catching back on board with Declan Anderson, back onto pole position. Your Rookies Division winner out of the sprint race today joins the winner's circle there, but his aspirations are still set at an outright race win. And with Vermac now champion, what is the expectation of the number 8 this time around? Will he let his guard down, knowing his fight is over, or will he keep his guard up, knowing he has a reputation to defend? We'll find out, though, as we're now beyond that 30-second warning on board to Declan Anderson, as he fires up that monstrous 5.4-litre V8. Joining him then, 16 cars over his rear, technically 15, and one right alongside him being that of your Season 6 Drivers' Champion for 5-Star Esports, Tyler Vermac. Where 5-Star had both the Drivers' Championships, it's Euro Titans that collects the teams here in Season 6. Makes you wonder, what are things going to look like on the run-up towards Season 7? Well, we'll be getting the first look of that next week. And we'll be hoping, now I can't vouch to this being certain, but we'll be hoping to get a word from Race Control live on air of some of the changes, unique changes, mind you, coming up in towards Season 7. Do look forward to that one at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Now, if we can't get a word from them, we'll relay their words over text form on the screen. But otherwise, do look forward to that one. Alongside meeting our two championship winners, Patrick Leger and Tyler Vermac, for the reveal of the Season 7 calendar. We're back on the wheel. Ben Cheeseman starts from the pit lane, giving us currently 16 cars on the grid, 8 on either side of which one from the pit lane for the start of the feature. And as mentioned before, your key areas to watch: turn 3, turn 4, and then the run up through turn 6, down in through to turn 7, and a good exit from turn 10. We'll leave you on board with the formation lap and be back to you in just a moment's time then, leaving you with the sights and sounds of your pole sitter for the feature race, number 28, Lexus RCF of Declan Anderson. So still on board here with Declan Anderson. And this could be quite a fiery duel between those two leading drivers, Anderson and Vermac, who had it down to the wire in the sprint race. Now with double the length, that pit stop is going to be a super vital part of success today for these drivers. They are going to have to play a lot more seriously when it comes to that pit stop strategy. Will we be seeing Vermac tow this one all the way to the very, very last point? Only time will reveal the answers. Good evening there in chat to viewers just joining us now. You join us for the feature race of Season 6, Round 9 of the NLRL Sunday League powered by TRTN. Just a moment ago then, we crowned the Rookies, Overall Drivers and Teams Champions. Your Rookies Champion was Patrick Leger, your Overall Drivers Champion was Tyler Vermac, and your Teams Champion for Season 6 after the sprint race was Euro Titans Endurance. 2 on the trot then for those. And we now head on in towards our last of 2 races today here at Round 9, ahead of the season finale next Sunday coming at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. One more dash here at the Red Bull Ring. 40 minutes on the clock here for the feature race. Down towards the line we go then from Red Bull Mobile Corner. 17 cars in attendance for race 2 here, the feature of Season 6, Round 9 of the NLRL Sunday League powered by TRTN, live from the Red Bull Ring. 16 on track, 1 for the pit lane, 8 either side of which, 40 minutes on the clock here for the feature. Down to the line we go at the home of the Austrian Grand Prix for one last time here in Round 9. We are green and racing here in Austria. A great start once again from the front row, just as we saw in the sprint race for Mack, getting the jump on Anderson in towards the Niki Lauda curve, but this time they are far closer to side-by-side action than they were in the sprint. In the background there, a huge collision, barreling down through turn one, starting off with a tap there onto your recent rookies champion, Patrick Leger. It's disaster right off the bat of the race start. Meanwhile, looking back in with Anderson v Vermaak on the live footage, they battle in towards Remus. There, it was Lamming colliding with Leger and created a huge domino effect that spilled down the order. As we head on in towards the run of Schlossgold Corner, the Lexus still hounding the rear end of that McLaren. You can see a massively shaken up order. Leger somehow came out of that one unscathed. I am flabbergasted as to how that's happened for him. Meanwhile, though, one of the major casualties down the order, I believe, has been Joseph Reyes, because now Ben Cheeseman, who I should remind has started from the pit lane, has gotten up past that number 58 after that huge spill at turn one. It's Vermaak from Anderson, Leger, Tamburini and Lamming in the top five at the moment. We take a look here as well with Luca Tamburini having got up in towards that fourth place spot. Right over his monstrously large rear wing is the ongoing fight between himself, Nick Lamming and Alan Alexander. Lamming looking for the inside down at Rint Corner. Tamburini trying to hold to the outside line. Number 58 is off track at the moment. That's for Joseph Reyes, and he's out of the feature race. As quick as it started for him, he's gone. Meanwhile, for Tamburini, a sketchy exit there off of Red Bull Mobile Corner. The Argentine talent doing his best to try and hold off an insurmountable tide of Ford machinery. With Lamming getting the jump on him down towards Niki Lauda curve right behind him, trying to follow on through there. The Bentley and then another Ford as well, being Leon Schumacher. And that's three positions in the blink of an eye there, gone for Luca Tamburini as he drops from the top five. Now four with Bohemil Janus in the mix as well. Up front, we do see here a recent kerfuffle has now put Anderson at the head of the field. Now, we did note there was a yellow flag, albeit very briefly, just before we caught on board. So was there an incident between Anderson and Vermaak? We now see Leger joined by his teammate at 5-star, the two champions of Season 6, sharing the limelight there for what looks to be a battle of second, but Anderson has got the con. 37.5 minutes left to go. If he can hold his ground here, Anderson could be race winner number 21 of the NLRL Sunday League here as we head on in towards race number 72 of the series here in Season 6, Round 9. Race number 71 gave us three champions in a blink of an eye, and now we find a post-champion era for the next four races, including this one, and three more next weekend. Anderson leading over Leger. Vermaak now into P3 in a shock turn of events there. Trying to get a look over the rear bumper of Vermaak's car to see if there was any indication of damage. Doesn't appear to be the case, but of course looks can be deceiving. Further down the line, Alan Alexander in fourth, Bohemil Janus in fifth place. Out wide there, that's, I believe, yes, that is Schumacher. Not Schumacher, sorry, that's, if I'm not mistaken, that was Tamburini. Hang on just a moment, let's go look at this on the replay. Trying to see, I mean, it's so hard there. You have to really squint to see that car. In behind, yes, it was. That was, by looks of it there. No, that was definitely Tamburini, but at the same time, Schumacher had trouble in the same section. Two for the price of one, not what you want to see there. And we do see now, for Luca Tamburini, side by side with Ruben Pino, Talkline Motorsport trying to get on the inside there of ITAM Racing, up through to turn 3. Solid defense there by Tamburini. Ruben Pino now under immediate pressure from Caleb Tate, one of the new drivers for round 9 of the championship, the number 90. Sets his sights there. Behind him is Gabriel Rivera, who was a very early casualty of that lap 1 incident. We see there Tate on the inside behind them as well. Cheeseman and Dwevetti side by side, with Cheeseman getting the leg on position. Meanwhile, Nick Lamming way down the order. Right behind him, Leon Schumacher. But Tyler Vermaak now contending with Patrick Leger for that second place spot. But you can see he is starting to fade a little bit behind there. 6/10 as it stands between himself and Leger. And Anderson is disappearing up road. 1.9 seconds he's got on Leger at this time. Going to look in with some of the closer fights at the moment. Rivera v Tate at this time. Two of the newer drivers this season. Right behind them, another new driver as well, Ruben Pino. In their rookie seasons, this is the sort of baby steps we see from these drivers before we get a full season drive out of them in Season 7. Into the pit lane goes Ben Cheeseman during this time. On board with Caleb Tate. Of course, Audi saw somewhat of a resurgence this season. We saw from Euro Titans when they fielded both Fate Galaxy and Carlos Diesch in the R8. Fate Galaxy later moved to BMW, and Diesch, though not here in tonight's round, as far as we know, is still with Audi. That is subject to change. On the run up through turn 2, Tate holds off Pino, but he loses ground off to Rivera. The Aston Martin peels away there for an overall 10th. In the pit lane at the moment, then Ben Cheeseman now off of his jacks and leaving the pit lane. Meanwhile, views from the podium. Trying to get a look in here with Tyler Vermack just to see what has been going on with the number 8, following what we assume at the moment is an incident that took him down to 3rd, though we're not sure exactly in what variety or what type of incident it was. Meanwhile, watching here, Rivera is catching up to Tamburini on board the Aston Martin. Now, a very rare vehicle to find on this grid anymore. The last Aston Martin we've been seeing over the course of this season, if I'm not mistaken, was Ian Skeen in the 991 Aston. And that's because this car's sort of gone the way of the dinosaur. The Vantage, great machine, as it now gets up past Luca Tamburini. It's just not one often sighted in the current meta for Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's a very, very heavy car to drive in the way that it feels, the way that it handles. It's not got any of the benefit that these newer front-engine cars have, where they've shoved the engine as far back towards the cabin as they can, such has been the case for Lexus. With their older design RCF, they were very forward-thinking when they brought that to the table. There, off in the background, both the 65 out through turn 10 and Daniel Marquez out through turn 1. The 65 now back into the pit lane. That could be the end of the road for Schumacher. We've seen him get up from far worse, though, so I wouldn't call it quite yet. We see here Bohumil Janis versus Felix Schwab. This is for Division 3rd in the rookies. 241 versus number 5. And I should say as well, this is not actually concerning position at all in the rookies, because I've just had a look back down there. Felix Schwab's far from a rookie anymore. He's been here for quite some time, so wires crossed on the run up through Schlossgold. Checking in here with the number 9, Patrick Leger, your rookies champion of Season 6. Holds 2nd place behind Declan Anderson, who you can see is just storming ahead in that Lexus. The last driver ever to take a win with Lexus was Michael Harris last season in Donington Park. Then before him was Season 2 champion. That's of Jason Bush. So these would be one of 3 drivers ever to have taken a win outright with Lexus. This is a curious one to see. We'll look forward to it from that of Declan Anderson. That's if he can pull through on the next 32 minutes of this race. Nick Lamming looks to be peeling to the pit lane here. Here goes the number 87, but there's a lot of water in his way there. He's having to dart across the track, momentarily clipping the grass. Very tight run in towards the pit lane there, so he's got to be very careful. So too does the rest of the field. It's a very quick stop there. That could be a penalty. I'm not 100% sure on that one. It looked like he got the car slowed down in time. We'll wait to see it, though, when he leaves the pit lane later on. Ruben Pino looking to fight with Daniel Marquez, overall 11th on the card. The wet conditions have made things rather difficult, both in terms of course, the elephant in the room being a lack of grip, but visibility is a huge consideration as well. There's an amount of spray kicked up by these cars. Now, you see it less in GT4. Funnily enough, we had conditions very similar to these in our last visit with GT4s at the Red Bull Ring over on the GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series by Competizione Performance League. And it's a case where those cars, a lot more road-relevant machines, far less sophisticated aerodynamics, they don't kick up anywhere near as much spray. Whereas these GT3s, they've got so much aero pushing that car down. It creates this huge vortex of air behind them that drags all this water up from the wheels and creates this almost miniature cloud behind the car. This mist spray, and makes it blinding to the cars behind them, especially on a race start where we've seen some incredibly wet races in the past. So you see there, Pedro Lopo fighting with Bohumil Janis. Let's go and catch on board with these two. On with the 777. Torclone Motorsport's a very new addition to the field. You see here from Pedro Lopo fighting an outright 6th. Now, this is Division 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, in the rookies. Rivera gets the leg there on Janus. The number 63 now sets his sights to fight with Pedro Lopo. Lopo was trying to get his chances there on Felix Schwab, who now gets up into that top 5. Porsche now having to defend The last of the rookies' podiums away from Gabriel Rivera. Now, this could be a curious one on the run-in towards next season. Now, there is a stipulation in the rule set surrounding the rookies where you do have to complete a set number of races. I believe it's about 3 or 4 before you are no longer classified as a rookie on the run-in towards next season. So for a lot of these fresher faces, they may actually find themselves with what feels like a season and a quarter of time spent in the rookies. But that's just because that's the baseline requirement. Otherwise, you can make the argument of someone who has competed for example, 2 races in the rookies, done decently well, but then you put them up into, say, the major category, and then they end up falling behind. It's just sort of giving them the fighting chance. They are still new to the series. That's how the rookie system works. Of course, we will get more clarification on the upcoming changes to the rookies on the run-in towards Season 7, hopefully next week in our final round of Season 6. Information from the front lines. Anderson in the lead still. Leger in second. Vermack third. Alexander fourth. Schwab in the top 5. And time does fly when you're having fun here. We've only 8 minutes left to go before the midway on the feature, with Anderson in that lead. When we consider the last time we had a brand new winner in this style of race, the standard format, or the new standard format, I should say, for Season 6 with the sprint and feature system having been introduced this season. The last time we had this was in, as we just see there, I believe, yes, that was a retirement for Schumacher. And I believe also for another car, as we are now down to, sadly, 14 vehicles left on this grid. Marquez v Tamburini. Just eye up there a brand new fight. The last time we had a race like this, it did end under red flags. Hoping not to see history repeat itself again. Sadly, it's been a case in both the last race just gone at Bathurst last weekend and this one, where we're having a lot of new drivers onto the grid. And then we're seeing a lot of dropaways. It is kind of a disappointing thing to see, but it's somewhat part and parcel of late season fatigue for a lot of drivers, knowing there's really no stakes involved to it anymore. But I would say it's in that very brief pocket between when the championship's been won in advance and the end of the season where we can see some of the most creative interpretations of racing from these drivers. They really do throw the gloves off when they know it's a bit more of a fun run in that last round. There's not really much that's going to affect their chances of a championship. Of course, that is what all of these drivers strive for, whether by smaller goals or larger goals. The end goal for every driver is to be a champion. That's a given. Often is the case where you don't have drivers these days racing just for the sake of racing. There's always a goal behind it, even if they aren't willing to admit it. Down only 14 cars left to go then on the feature, and nearly halfway through. Our concerns still lie with the fighting out back. Marquez v Tamburini v Tate, and further up the road, Rivera v Lopo. And these new drivers are certainly giving us quite the entertainment here in the absence of action from the top 5. They're massively spread out top 5 forming up there. Still a 1.9 second gap between Leger and Anderson. It was Patrick Leger who took his first ever win outright in conditions, I suppose I should say, as regulations like these on the standard format. Won under red flags in the feature in Imola earlier this season. Anderson may be looking to do the same, albeit was hoping to not repeat the history's events of it finishing under a red flag. Of course, he would like to see that checkered flag first among the fray. Anderson is doing remarkably well here. This move to Lexus has been a miracle for the number 28. I mean, it's a night and day, the performance he's had from his last couple of races here into where he stands at the moment. It has been quite a thing of beauty from that Lexus. So going to catch back on board with the Rivera v Lopo fight. Now, this is a curiosity we're seeing here from some of the newer faces of the grid. The Aston Martin fighting with the Porsche, a rarely cited matchup. Last time Aston Martin ever took a win in the NLRL Sunday League was way back in Season 2 at the Mount Panorama circuit, courtesy of a drive by Ian Skeen. It saw Aston Martin to a 1-2, with the V8 Vantage winning and the V12 Vantage in second. That was Season 1's champion Christian Labbe had delivered the first ever manufacturer 1-2 in the NLRL Sunday League. And that was one-upped by Ford in Season 3 when there was the first ever 1-2-3. That was at the first round of the championship at Brands Hatch. Watching here then the fight for 6th place. You see there from Rivera was floating the idea of gunning for the inside, and that was in efforts to sort of spook Lopo off the line. That nearly worked out for him there, but the problem he faces is something that we know plenty much about when it comes to the stopping distance, pound for pound, between the Aston Martin and the Porsche. The Porsche will win 99% of the time. It has more stopping power. Physics is on its side. Of course, it is a double-edged sword because there is the much higher chance that the car can step out under braking when the back end shifts all of its weight over the nose and then in turn becomes light. It can create a pendulum effect if we are, braking and turning at the same time. So he has to be a lot more careful in the corners, but under straight line braking zones like we'll see up towards Remus, he can really get down on the anchors compared to the Aston. It's 4 litre versus 4 litre as well. Porsche 4 litre flat 6 versus Aston Martin 4 litre V8 twin turbo. Actually loaned out to them as a licensed design from Mercedes, the M177 engine, based off of the M178 that you'll find in the Mercedes AMG GT, albeit not their GT3 car. That uses the same engine as their older SLS, a 6.3 litre naturally aspirated unit, the largest engine on this grid. We see here from Path to Avedi, another pit lane you also saw a moment ago was that of Luca Tamburini. So looking back up at the head of the field and then back into our ongoing fight. So going to catch back on board with that of Rivera v Lopo. Behind them, the approach of Caleb Tate. Four litre, and 5.2 litres. The current story of P6. We see, though, from the Aston Martin, one thing that it really does have to its strengths, as we'll see here from Rivera, are the times where it gets snatched by the curbs. It is quite a stable car in the wet. It's got plenty of engine modes that accommodate for wet racing. It's a very modular vehicle when it comes to this tackling of various weather conditions. So the Aston Martin is the jack of all trades, master of none of GT3. It is a very solid starter's choice. The only downsides this car has, it can be very, very heavy in its handling. But if drivers prefer a more deliberate driving style, as you'll see here from Rivera, every plot is firmly calculated. The car will work wonders. You see they're waiting for the mistake from the Porsche out in front. Didn't take a lot for the Aston Martin to then shift up and ahead. That now shifts things into a three-way fight for that 6th place spot with Rivera now commanding over Lopo and Tate. Meanwhile, hang on a moment there. You see Tate gets up and ahead. A great switchback. Sadly, one that we couldn't see until we just got on now to see Caleb Tate now to 7th. Pedro Lopo to 8th. Daniel Marquez in 9th. And he's soon to be, looking on the map here, intercepted in the pits by the approach of the 114 Ben Cheeseman, who is now back into the top 10. Coming up onto the halfway mark of the race, still no progress from the front lines. Anderson, Leger and Vermac, but we do see, looking to make a point here in towards the top 3 is Alan Alexander. The Rainmaker, sometimes also called the Wizard on Water. I believe we called him that one time after his legendary Kyle Army performance. At 315. Now with Bentley on what has been, I'd say, one of his more iconic seasons, as that Bentley has been the sole representative of Bentley Motorsports on this grid. Now, we did see another sprinkling of Bentleys last season in the first couple of rounds when we had David Tanguay on the grid from Malwar Racing. We got to see multiple Bentleys. It was a very curious sight indeed. Alexander is the last of the old guard when it comes to the Bentley Continental in this series. Now, we have seen historically here on TRTN and even on NLRL just how strong the Bentley can be in the right hands. Alexander is your proof of concept here in the Sunday League, but over on what is now the suspended until further notice console endurance series, and I say that until we get the release of Le Mans Ultimate on consoles, then it will return, I am told by Race Control. But in that second and currently final season until further notice, Bentley cleared house with exclusive esports. The 788 car was the most dominant performance we've ever seen in any championship. As you hear it there, halfway through the race, with Anderson having pulled that gap up from 1.9 to 2.5 seconds. Tyler Vermaak in third, but you can see he's being intercepted by Alan Alexander. That 315 is in hot pursuit for a third place spot by the end of this weekend. You can see he's committed to it off the exit of Red Bull Mobile. You can see physically the distance on the track there between the two leading cars, both of which rookies, Anderson and Leger. Leger, the latter of which being the new rookies champion. Right now, what we are seeing here represents among the closest fights available to us on the track. Now, there is also the suggestion out back of fighting from the point of view of taking a look a little further down the order here. It was originally going to be fighting involving Pedro Lopo, but Lopo is now in. So, going back on board to catch with the Bentley versus the McLaren. Two British marques go head-to-head. McLaren versus Bentley here at the Red Bull Ring. Ahead of their final visit in Season 6 to the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Whilst we've got the opportunity here watching on with Alan Alexander as he heads up into a fight for the podium. Reflecting on how things have been so far this season, the new regs have definitely been a bit of a crowd splitter, but I think they have given these drivers the best possible racing opportunity we've seen here in the NLRL Sunday League, albeit the revised success ballast still continues to split opinions among the drivers, but I'd say it has been a solid rework. We see Tyler Vermaak is anchoring to the right-hand side here, so I believe the number 8 is coming into the pits early. So now looking to flip the script here on that leading number 28. That leaves Alan Alexander to move up into third. Leger will stay second, so nothing's changed at the head of the field. You see that Vermaak now trying to play things tactically to get the leg up on Declan Anderson, in fear of seeing Anderson becoming the 21st race winner. I imagine in the position of Vermaak, he has now gone on to take the championship by the end of the sprint race. Will he want to have the whole slice of the cake to himself here and try and go for the feature win? Certainly would believe that is the case there for him. Anderson, though, has had a great performance. Now, I am still curious as to know what happened on the run-up between Niki Lauda curve and then turn 2 and 3 up towards Remus, as to what precisely created that incident that put Anderson in the lead, because we did see it when we were watching a little further down the pack. We saw that brief flicker of a yellow flag come up on our radar. Unless I'm just imagining things there, but we saw that Vermaak nearly dropped. Oh my goodness, that was a big slide from Anderson. So back on that in a moment. That was a real heart in the throat moment there for Declan Anderson. You can really start to sense there he is shaken up by that. He's done very well to keep that. Hats off really to Anderson, but he has lost a lot of that valuable time he has spent the first half of this race building up over Patrick Leger. And I think that's been enough to scare him off to the pit lane. So in goes Declan Anderson. You can see very sketchy run in there. And by the looks of it, Leger is staying out. So Patrick Leger stays out and takes the lead here of the feature race at Season 6, Round 9 of the Red Bull Ring. Into the pit lane goes Declan Anderson, playing reactionary to Tyler Vermaak's recent move to the pits. Right now, though, as for Vermaak, he's just making his way up towards turns 9 and 10. He's in behind Daniel Marquez at this time, watching here with your new driver's champion. Meanwhile, Felix Schwab also in the pit lane, as we see there, a bit of trouble getting out past Daniel Marquez. I don't know why the cameras go so wide of that section of the track, as we see that Anderson has got out clear. You can see him just in the bottom left-hand side there. You can hear it in your left ear if you're watching on headphones. If you're listening on headphones, you would have heard that little rumble there, that 5.4 litre rocketing out of the pit. So a very solid gap here, 3.8 seconds between Anderson and Vermaak. The number 5, Felix Schwab, has a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. So big trouble for Schwab. Right now, then, we're left with 5 cars yet to have taken their pit stop. And it has been a much more conservative strategy over the course of today's event. Not one that we were expecting reeling out of the sprint race, where drivers were playing things far more aggressively, certainly in the case of Vermaak, and that's what netted him that 13th race win of his career here in the Sunday League, and ultimately what was the candle on top of his championship prospects. Alexander stays out, And so too does Leger. Next under the scalpel is Rivera. And that Aston Martin has had a tremendous performance here in the feature. We've seen him get knee-deep in action in the rookies. Making his way down through turn 9. We're down to, sadly, only 13 cars left. Certainly does raise a few questions on the run-in towards the final round of the championship. Now, of course, we were made aware as to why there was a notable dropout of drivers for round 9. It does sadly mean that today's round does clash with the World Cup finals. And I'm not going to try and begin to rationalize any of that because I don't watch too much football myself. We see there into the pit lane goes both Tate and Marquez, the former of which, that is quite heavy damage there for Caleb Tate. The number 90 is in. You can see the front end propped up a little bit on the Audi. He's going to be in there for quite some time if he means to get that one patched up. Marquez follows him in. That leaves 3 drivers left on the cards here for a run into the pits. Leger, Alexander and Rivera. Hopefully we'll be seeing some more of the Euro Titans drivers and perhaps some more of the 5-star drivers if there are any more to join us into round 10, as this has been a little bit of a hiccup, and following on from the week before that at Bathurst, where there were so many dropouts from that race after what was a frankly disastrous start in Bathurst. Now, I wouldn't say it's on the level of what was it like in the last season, where at turn 1 we saw the biggest pileup we'd ever seen in Sunday League history. In fact, the biggest pileup we'd ever seen on TRTN. Whilst we've got this opportunity as well, with 13 minutes left to go, some other news across the world of both sim racing and motorsports. Of course, some of you were made aware a few weeks ago by us here on TRTN, and you may have otherwise seen advertised around, was the upcoming NLRL Cup Series. It was set to be NLRL's first ever NASCAR project on iRacing. That was set to kick off originally by the end of this month, and then was delayed towards the start of next. Well, sadly, I do have news pertaining to its current suspension. Until further notice, the NLRL Cup Series is on a hold, as complications have come up that have now withheld the opportunity for that championship to start. Now, any more developments, we'll relay that when we get the opportunity next, in the next few broadcasts over next week, but so far it's on ice. Sadly so. We were looking forward to our first ever trip to NASCAR racing. I'm sure that by the end of the year we will find at least some opportunity to get in on coverage of iRacing races. It is only simply a matter of time here on TRTN. We already got in on the venture of Le Mans Ultimate a few weeks ago, to a mixture of success, because that game doesn't particularly play nice with OBS. We'll come to see it in due time. It was also the recent reveal of the IndyCar game. They are making an official IndyCar game. The developers of iRacing are now bringing us in early 2027 a standalone IndyCar game for both PC and console. So we'll be watching that intently here on TRTN, as we now see from Alan Alexander the brewings of a fight for the outright lead of today's race. Now, this is before either of them venture into the pit lane. On board with Alexander, fighting for a provisional lead in the 315 Bentley. Up and around Remus. The Bentley is quite the juggernaut against the Ford. These are two serious heavy hitters of the front engine variety. As for Bentley, though, in terms of top end, they do fall short of Ford and Lexus by about 2 miles an hour in terms of top end speed. Having a look here on the right hand side, still the fastest car we had ever recorded on TRTN in the GT3 category. And these were all, bear in mind, top speeds set at Monza was a 181 mile an hour top speed set by the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini Gallardo REX. That was driven in part by Hayden Prodger last season in a number of limited appearances, under various different aliases as well. Still quite a bizarre factor of that last season. You can see there, Bentley does fall short by a few miles an hour. We see anchoring in on the right-hand side, so going in goes Patrick Leger. Alexander stays out and holds on to what is a newfound race lead until further notice. The 315 up into the lead, but still has to come to the pit lane. Seeing then with Leger, Anderson 25 seconds in closing, so That number 28 is not too far away. It's worth noting 2.8 seconds was the last recorded interval between Anderson and Vermaak. They share the same straight of tarmac on the run up towards Rint Corner. The number 28, having just got up past there what looked to be some lap traffic. Yes, that was Path with Eddie. As Leger about to drop from his jacks there, is about to be intercepted by Anderson. His hopes right now is he can emerge up and ahead of Vermaak. We see just as he crosses off the limiter, Anderson gets up past him. Leger rockets down towards turn one. He's actually got the inside line here on Vermaak, but Vermaak's got way more momentum. Gets up and ahead of him. Leger re-emerges down behind these two into 4th place. Alan Alexander, the last piece of the puzzle. 9.5 minutes left to go on the feature race. What will he do? Will he play this one to the last of his ability, or will he come in sooner as opposed to later? See here, very close fighting. Gabriel Rivera versus Ben Cheeseman. What a comeback drive it's been by Cheeseman. I'd like to point that one out. Up into 5th place here in the closing 9 minutes of racing. Now he still fights intently with Rivera to hold a top 5 by the end of Season 6, Round 9. Further behind, there is an ongoing fight. Lamming v Marquez for 9th place. Let's got a catch on board, though, with some of the various fights on track at the moment. Of course, Leger is still at very close distance here to Vermaak, but it's unlikely those two will be fighting anywhere near as intently. We, of course, see Lamming v Marquez in towards the Niki Lauda curve. There's also the 114 of Ben Cheeseman fighting at this time with Gabriel Rivera. So we go to check in with those two. Seeing here with the 114 Ben Cheeseman, who not too long ago transferred from Lamborghini last season back to McLaren. 114 makes his way down through Rauch towards Verth. Right behind him then, Gabriel Rivera in the fight for 5th place. Be very curious to see if Rivera maintains his position at Aston Martin, because this is quite a competitive performance. It is giving the same kind of vibes as we saw in the very early seasons of the Sunday League, Season 1 and 2, that we saw in limited appearance from Hayden Puttock and Ian Skeen. Liking what I'm seeing, though, from Rivera. Still quite fresh to the season, still quite fresh to the championship. This is looking to be a promising prospect to follow into Season 7. Across the line there, these two neck and neck on the run up towards Niki Lauda curve. Now trying to get enthusiastic onto the brakes there as the Aston Martin, but you can see there's this degree of maturity in the drive from Rivera, because he knows the limit of his machine. He's not going to try and launch the car knowing that time's growing fickle. He is willing to wait things out and see if Cheeseman slips up and makes a mistake. Very easy, is it, especially here at the Red Bull Ring, to go launching for a run on the inside, knowing there's plenty of runoff to make that stick. This is a very, very calculated drive we're seeing from both parties here, the McLaren and the Aston Martin, in the fight on 5th place. Now, getting a look just further around the field here to go and catch on board. There's another fight going on at the time, Lamming v Marquez. We do see as well that now integrates a 3rd party. Ruben Pino joins the fray, having fallen back onto the nose of Nick Lamming by 0.3 of a second. We see over his rear view here, the Mustang on the charge. Worth noting for Lamming, that is damage we're seeing there on the number 87. And in spite of that, is still soldiering on from inside the top 10. Going back on board to our fight here between the 114 and the 63, one that has occupied our minds for some time here in the closing minutes of Round 9's feature race. Meanwhile, just wanted to note there, that was the 315. Believe, yes, Alan Alexander rolls over to move in behind both Vermaak and Leger. Now that is a curiosity, the 315. I'm not precisely sure what spurred this on, but Alexander, as we caught on with him, looked to have been ushering on the 2 5-star cars up into the podium. Was this, and I imagine this is something he might tell us, if it wasn't an accident, it's because he was getting bored and he wanted someone to fight with. There is a very sort of playful expression around a lot of these Euro Titans drivers. They really do seem to be of a different cut of cloth compared to your average professional driver here on ACC. They are much more invested in the smiles per mile strategy. I mean, it's often seen with drivers who have got quite a lot of experience on the grid. We saw from one notable case of the whole smiles per mile tactic was Anthony Valorio back in Season 3 of the Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup, where he deliberately went out of his way to choose the Alpine. He knew he wasn't going to be competitive in it, but he much preferred the opportunity to race with Alpine over McLaren, and actually had quite a decently competitive performance, all things considered. Back on with Rivera and Cheeseman. In that fight on 5th, we have 5 minutes left to go. Now, I think I might have a little extra tab to the story here, because it does spring to mind now that we had actually not until this point recently seen Alexander in the pit lane, and where he was positioned on track, it looked like he had come out of the pits and just had far less momentum than either Vermac or Leger, so we got intercepted right at that moment. Unless I'm just making all of that up and have completely forgotten that he'd come into the pits there, but there's been so much going on, surprisingly, for a 13-car grid that it's been difficult to keep track of precisely when any of these drivers have come into the pit lane. Right now, as we close in on the last few minutes here, functionally speaking, when we get down to the line, we're looking at the possibility of maybe 2, maybe 3 more laps left in this race from Declan Anderson, as he is only a few laps away from becoming an overall race winner, the 21st driver to do so in the history of the NLRL Sunday League. Number 28 still on the charge, 3.4 seconds over Tyler Vermac. Patrick Leger in 3rd, Alan Alexander in 4th, Ben Cheeseman in 5th, and right behind him, Gabriel Rivera in 6th place. It has been, so far, I'd say quite an eventful run here at the Red Bull Ring. A surprisingly eventful run given the short number of sign-ups. I suppose it is the case, though, that good things come in small packages, and only 13 drivers left on the grid is still giving us quite a fair few fights to speak of. This one still being the most potent among them. That fight for 5th place. Ben Cheeseman on a proper comeback drive here, going toe-to-toe with what looks to be the sparks of a new prospect to watch into Season 7, Gabriel Rivera, on his first handful of appearances to the NLRL Sunday League. See a bit of a wobble, though, for the 114. This could be quite the turn for the Aston. See here for the third-person view. Cheeseman now on the outside line for the run-up in towards Niki Lauda curve. What does he choose to do here? The Aston Martin under the brakes. Back onto the racing line. Solid overtake. Left Cheeseman with few, if any, options. Textbook approach there by Rivera. Now up into that top 5. 3rd in the rookies, I should illustrate as well, with 2.5 minutes left to go. Seeing there from Cheeseman, he was floating the idea of a shock and awe counter-attack, but he waited until after, so he was very patient there. Actually gets a little bit of a nudge there onto the rear of the Aston Martin of Gabriel Rivera. I'm not sure if that were intended there. He wasn't expecting Rivera to jump out a little bit to the right. No, I don't think there was anything intentional there. I think it was just a bit of a clumsy run in the wet conditions. They can't really predict each other one-to-one here. We see great retake through Schlossgold by Cheeseman, and I still think their fight's far from done. Hang on a moment. That's the 28. The 28's in the wall. Declan Anderson. What has happened for Declan Anderson? We'll have to... All right, so we're going to have to look at this on the mini-map. You'll have to bear with me here. Look at that on the mini-map there. The triangle, number 28, that's a spin from turn 10. That is a spin. Oh, my goodness. Oh, no, no, no. It has all gone horrifically wrong for Declan Anderson. That's heartbreak for the number 28 as he drops not only from the race lead, but from the podium entirely. That is gut-wrenching. Unmistakably gut-wrenching there. He gets to the part where you start to feel quite sorry for him. That is awful, awful news for Declan Anderson. However, it's great news for Tyler Vermac, because he will be looking now at the prospect of 14 race wins in his career on the Sunday League. Having wrapped up the championship bid in the sprint race, he's going to have the full shebang here, so to speak, in Season 6, Round 9 of the Red Bull Ring. Number 56, that's Path to Avedi, has picked up a stop-go. 45 seconds to the line, so we are looking at the chances here between these three, close as they still are to one another, at a mad dash for one more lap. Meanwhile, for Rivera v Cheeseman, Rivera still on the charge, out through Schlossgold. We are actually presented with quite a fair few fights on the run-in towards that last lap. Down towards the line we go then with Tyler Vermac, 25 seconds to the line, followed by Patrick Leger and Alan Alexander on the podium. And this could really go all the way down to the wire between these drivers, because we have seen so much happen in such little time. We'll catch back on board to the number 8 in a moment's time. We do want to check in here with Ben Cheeseman versus Gabriel Rivera on the run down through towards Rin and Red Bull Mobile. The Aston Martin giving him the lights there through turn 9 as they head on to the final lap. Down through Red Bull Mobile corner. And it's there, that runoff section, where you can see what looks to be painted there in the colours of the Austrian flag. That is where the 28 got up onto that section. It's all standing water, and that's barreled him towards that wall, full pelt. And he's come away with a lot of damage. Enough to see him, though, to the checkered flag. But that is gut-wrenching away from what could have very well been his first ever outright Sunday League win. He'll take home a rookie's win in the sprint. But it'll be Patrick Leger looking to pick up where he last left off on what was a dominant, I believe, 6 or 7 race streak in the rookies. And that has been a very, very interesting day. Actually, yes, it stands for Declan Anderson. I'm not even sure if that was that a rookie's win in the last race just gone. Yes, it was. We see then down towards the line. We see it's very close from behind with Patrick Leger and Alan Alexander over his rear view. Making his way down towards the line then. Checkered flag is out. Tyler Vermack about to see race win number 14. Down across the line then goes Vermack. Wins 2 times on the trot here at the Red Bull Ring. Vermack likes to claim that this is, spiritually speaking, and home ground race for him. Though he represents South Africa, he lives in Austria, not too far from the Red Bull Ring, I'm told. And I imagine this has put quite the smile on his face today. Double win at the Red Bull Ring and a championship to boot. It has been phenomenal from the number 8. Patrick Leger sees a narrow second place to Alan Alexander. Leger sees the rookie's win then here in the feature for rounds 9. Declan Anderson, a heartbreaking defeat then after that spin to the wall, but will come away with a top 5 with the fastest lap. 4th place overall, rookies second. Ben Cheeseman on a heroic drive there to see a top 5 finish against prevailing circumstances. Behind him, great drive to boot as well for Gabriel Rivera. The number 63 rounds out the podium for the rookies and is in 6th overall. Tamburini to the line following them. Looks to be actually up in front of them to the line there to see 12th was Pedro Lopo. Tamburini 7th, looking here with Nick Lamming, looking at 8th place. Down towards the line there, Nick Lamming sees 8th place. Daniel Marquez tonight for Ruben Pino to 10th. You see here for Caleb Tate. Had a fair few fights over the course of today's event. It's sad how things went for him, but nonetheless a solid result. 11th. At the end of today's event, you can see the death toll, though, from behind. It was brutal here at the Red Bull Ring's feature race. We saw 2 dropouts, Hart and Pomar, and then 4 DNFs, Schwab, Janus, Schumacher, and Reyes. And a 60-second penalty at the checkered flag for Path Dwevedi. That drops him to 13th place. Nonetheless, Tyler Vermack wins in both the sprint and feature. Your rookies win in the feature race goes to Patrick Leger. Alan Alexander in 3rd. Declan Anderson 4th with the fastest lap. Ben Cheeseman in 5th. Rivera 6th. Tamburini 7th. Lamming 8th. Marquez 9th. And Pino in 10th. Tate in 11th. Lopo, sorry, I should say, in 12th. Lupo is a small Volkswagen, if I'm not mistaken. Lopo in 12th. And Dwevedi in 13th. 4 DNS, 2 DNSs. But what a race it has been here. A small but mighty assortment of competitors on the second to last round of the season here on season 6 of the NLRL Sunday League. I am told we can get an interview today, and it's going to be from your rookies champion. We spoke not too long ago with Patrick Leger away from what was one of the closest ever finishes in Sunday League history in his fight with Vermack. But let's get a word in just a moment from now with your season 6 rookies champion. And our interviewee for today, then, at the end of Season 6, Round 9, your Season 6 Rookies Drivers Champion, Patrick Leger. Patrick, it has not been too long since we last spoke to you, but I imagine you're in much happier stead than the last time we had a chat. What a day it's been for you.
Definitely day. Did you just call me a Rookies Champion?
Yes, you are the Rookies Champion.
Oh, let's go! I didn't even know that. I thought it was way closer than it seems.
No, you are the Rookies Champion. There's no mistaking that one.
Oh, let's go. Boom. I didn't know. Thank you for bringing me the news. I was completely unaware.
So that's caught me completely off guard. Well, now that you know the startling news that you are Rookies champion, how are you feeling?
Ecstatic. I mean, I'm here and in all the competitions to win prizes. So that I've won the Rookies Championship. I mean, I'm ecstatic to say the least. I mean, brilliant season so far here.
It has been such a solid performance. And you had one of the most dominant streaks for wins in the Rookies Championship. I believe it was about 6 on the trot at one point. 6 in a row victories. It's crazy to see that this has been, by and large, one of the most dominant Rookies performances of the NLRL Sunday League's history. This has been the 3rd season now that we have had the Rookies Championship as part of the itinerary. And you now join the ranks alongside William Bajon, Carlos Dish, over the last 2 seasons for the Rookies Championship. So it's going to be, I imagine, quite the heavy expectations heading in towards Season 7. You'll be heading up into the sort of the major league, the main category now, fighting for that overall championship.
Yes and no. I'm not really thinking about the past when this season is done. Of course, it is nice that I am a champion now and that I've proven myself to be one of the fastest driver in this competition. But for me, the past is the past, and after the next round, I believe that is then the last round. The season is over for me, and it is done, and it is completed. I mean, it is. Then for me, the next page will be turned. So I will not take that extra pressure into me, because I do not. It doesn't help me at all. I would just want to focus race by race, and yeah, I mean, if I was probably fighting for a championship, I would probably done a little bit less because I want to maximize my race. But it's nice to know that I'm champion now.
To be fair, it's a really good mindset to have. You just keeping, clear and narrow eyes forward onto the next season. That's the mindset I think a lot of drivers ought to have. That's really quite inspiring, that. But it's been a brilliant season for you as well. Looking back through your results before today, let's just have a little glance at that on the screen as well. And yes, it was, having a look here, 6 races in a row from the first of 3 races in round 6 right up till last weekend at Bathurst, where you took the Rookies win there as well behind Fate Galaxy. And it was only just until today, I'm pretty sure it was, where that streak was broken by Declan Anderson. But then you got it right back again to take another win of what is several now over the course of the season. You've got the most amount of wins by and large. It's no surprises then you're up to that championship win.
Yeah, I definitely not surprised. I don't know if I've at least a shot at the other championship or not, or maybe I joined too late. But yeah, Declan Anderson today, I have to say, he was magical today. I mean, apparently he is the wet weather specialist of this competition because his speed was amazing. I don't know what happened at him a couple of laps before the finish line, but I feel sorry for him because I've been there as well, wasted a win. Easy as day win. So yeah.
It was the the section just off of turn 10, that large flat section, the runoff, and it's completely flooded with water. We saw it on the mini map. He's come up out of turn 10. He's gone wide over the curb onto that runoff and spun in towards the pit wall. I believe that's what happened to him a few laps before the end of the race today.
Yeah, that's so easy to do with this tough conditions. I mean, I feel sorry for him, and I mean, I'm sure he will get back stronger from that. But now, I mean, to next week, I'm definitely going to focus to get one more Rookies win and hopefully even a main win as well, because I want to maximize my season, and my season is not completely done yet.
Of course. Well, on to the next round then for you. It's been delightful speaking with you today. I'm glad that we were the ones that could break the news that you are champion in the Rookies division today. It's been a wonderful, wonderful day for you with the number 9 and the recent move to 5-Star Esports. Is there anything more we can learn about that? Because of course this is still quite a fresh thing, and we've now just seen this as the first round you've been categorized in with the 5-Star Esports team.
Yeah, I mean, the agreement is that we can just fight each other and not have team orders or that kind of stuff. Tyler approached me if I wanted to join the team, and with certain agreements, also doing endurance races with them and that kind of stuff in other competitions. The offer was too good to let go. And I mean, I feel very welcomed by him, and also very nice that we are not going to do any team orders and that kind of stuff, so we can still battle each other like we did today as well. This time he got the better of me, but next week I will get the better of him.
Oh, those are fighting words. We look forward to seeing that one. Then the gloves are off, of course, with all the championships now on the table. 5-Star Esports, through both you and Vermac, are drivers champions, and the team's championship went over to Euro Titans for their second season in a row. So all the gloves are off coming in towards Monza. Is that what we're to understand?
Oh, definitely. I mean, did we also get the Constructors Championship, or is that still on?
I can check the Constructors Championship. It's not something we've been tracking over the course of the season, but it's something we can take a quick glance at. Looking at the GT3s, yeah, Ford is leading right now over McLaren. That actually is still yet to be wrapped up. That's still numerically within a shot here in towards Monza. Ford has 362.2 points and McLaren has 326. So they are still close. That's about 20. Sorry, not 20. It's about 30 or 46 points, roughly. 36.2.
All right, then I can say the gloves are off. I gotta do my best to get Ford to the championship, and let's the best constructor win, I say.
Well, it's been fantastic speaking with you today. Look forward to seeing what you can do in Monza next weekend for the season finale. But very, very well done today. Then Season 6 Rookies Championship title, heading up into the main category next season with high honours, but keeping your eyes forward to the road ahead.
Definitely, mate. Thank you for amazing commentary as well, and I will hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, hope to see you then. Very, very well done today. All the best. Take care.
Take care.
So that was Patrick Leger, your Season 6 Rookies Champion. Right now, it doesn't appear anyone else is awaiting interviews. I believe right now is the case where Vermac might not be available for word over the microphone, so we might get a message in from him later on, and we'll relay that in towards the 10th round of the championship. It has been a case before where Vermac is a little bit microphone shy, and we're willing to respect that, of course. And, you know, with all due respect, he is the champion as well. I'm sure we can go quite a long way to respect that one. Very well done to these two then. You can see your two drivers champions still stuck in on the paddock, and all things said and done at the end of round 9 of the championship. We'll be hoping to get more word in on the run in towards next week from both Race Control, and we'll hope to try and get a word out of your team's championship representative. We spoke with Ben Meredith last season as the representative of Euro Titans. We'll hope to get another word in with him over the course of Season 6, Round 10. Well then, speaking of, one last trip then before the end of this season, the 26th of July, next weekend, 6:30 p.m. BST, final round of the Sunday League Season 6, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, for a sprint format race, 3 races in the Temple of Speed. Catch us then, though. But some more events coming up over the course of this week coming. Of course, we have racing back from the penultimate round of Season 6 of the Sprint Cup EU Series over on TRC. That comes Tuesday evening. We have the same Wednesday events coming up, both the Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup, as well as the OLR XVSR Midweek Championship. You'll then catch us right after Wednesday in towards Sunday, as we don't have anything coming up on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So a bit of a break from us here, as coming up next Sunday, of course, will be that final round of the season. We'll have plenty coming along the way, talking about some of the new regs coming up into next season, hopefully speaking with Race Control about that. We spoke with Ethan Oliver last season as the representative of NLRL Race Control and the sort of head of operations for the Sunday League. And, of course, the main event, of course, will be the calendar reveal after that race. And as you heard there from Leger, gloves are off. It's fighting time now between the teammates. There is still technically one more championship to get, one that we've not been tracking. That's the manufacturers. A war from within at the 5-Star Esports team. It's Ford versus McLaren. As you see here, your two candidates of the manufacturers championship. But to summarise today, your current run of things then, you're seeing there overall drivers champion for Season 6, Tyler Vermac, rookies champion for Season 6, Patrick Leger, and the team's champion for Season 6 is Euro Titans Endurance. That's all from us here on TRTN. Catch us on Tuesday as we get our next coverage with TRC on the Sprint Cup EU Series live from the Circuit Zolder. That's all from us here today. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.